Mabor, Bing William, Ato in Juba, Malatori, hey, I'm yo, Bing William, Ato in Benti, Walla Quadu, hey, wow, Bing William, Ato in Malkal, Walla Pinyaram, Bing William,
Hello, good morning, everybody. Good evening, good night, wherever you are. My name is Abraham Madid Majak. I'm one of the Lake State Media hosts. My guest this morning is Masri Edmund Yakani. We will be talk about the issues going on in our country. Before I do that, I would like to wish everybody Happy New Year of 2024. I hope this new year will bring a blessing to all of us. And also we are praying that the new year will bring the peace that we're yearning for to our country. Before we start the show, please, I will encourage you, for those of you in Facebook, YouTube, Clubhouse, please start sharing the video. And another thing too, we will, before we dive in our conversation, I have a video that will play and then we will go. Before I do that, let me play that video. So thank you. Start sharing, pin people in.
Attended by the governors of Western Bar. The meeting attended by the governors of Western Bahr el Ghazal, Lakes and Warab states was to discuss possible way to stop interstate tribal conflicts. After the meeting, the governors also addressed a gathering in Wau to disseminate messages of peaceful coexistence and denounce violence. The governor of Western Bahr el Ghazal state, Sarah Cleto Asen Real, called on the communities involved in the conflict to stop and embrace dialogue.
Let us reconcile. Al-Zahlan bin Zonjam Mukhalikul Malish. Kulo Malish, Mukamali Gulek Malish, Noma, there it is, Gurdu Akbar. For Khalila, we need to reconcile to move forward as one people and one nation. So this is the time. Sarajadi Danga Lifu Hajat Kiir Mokbe. الناس بتتكلم عن الانتخابات، الناس بتتكلم عن السلام والاستقرار.
The governor of Lakes State, Rintoin Mabor, warned people that incited the communities and called for reconciliation. The governor of Warab State, Kwal More, pledged to work collectively with his counterparts in the region to end tribal conflicts. I want you to distance yourself from this issue of land, whether Manyang or any other place. It is my work as the governor of Warab, and also it is the work of Her Excellency Sarah Cleto. We will all work together to solve this issue of land dispute. The second deputy chairman of the SPLM, Daniel Aweda Court, criticized communities for using violence to claim their rights.
I have a question. Are we free now? Are we free? We will not complete the roads, the schools, the hospitals. We are very educated. You need to tell ourselves. You are not free. And if you are not free, don't allow yourself to be put in objective that serve you nothing.
The governors have agreed to quickly intervene jointly in stopping ravine attacks and restore law and order. Daniel Marangwek, SSBC News, Wow, Western Barrel Rizal State.
Okay, here you have it. Edmund, welcome to Lake State Media once again. Happy New Year. Edmund, as we start on this show, I see in the news, breaking news yesterday, that there was Deputy Chief Administrator of ABA, Mr. Honorable Noon Deng, was killed with the other member of government. And that, so can you give us this update? I see that you wrote the article about it yesterday, and Legislative Media saw that, and we posted on our website, on our page. So can you give up update what's going on? Thank you.
Thank you very much. First, wish your audience and wish the team of Lex Media and South Sudanese, wherever they are, Happy New Year, and we hope that 2024 will be a year of peace and stability, and will be a year of political consensus on how to transition the story of our country from violence to peace. That's the first thing. Though we concluded 2013 in a very unfortunate situation, and a very unfortunate situation, it is the loss of the life of Honorable Noon, okay, who is a Deputy Chief Administrator of ABA, and Honorable Noon Deng was killed in a road car ambush with his 4 bodyguards. And we have seen quickly the level of tension in terms of messaging among the two communities that have witnessed this particular moment. And we have seen exchange of information between our brothers and sisters who are from Twitch, Mayardit, and our brothers and sisters from Ngokadenka, from Abia administrative area. So I'd like to say, as we roll out 2024, the tension between Twitch, Mayardit, and Abia is getting worse and is getting out of hand. That's one thing that I would like to make it very clear. And secondly, the killing of the Deputy Chief Administrator of Abia administrative area, it was a very serious slap on the face of the governors of Western Baragazal region, who are now in WOW in Western Baragazal, as you have played their messages. All those messages have never contributed in preventing the violence. The opposite is that the profiteers of the violence have slapped on the face of the governors on what they want. Of course, right now, there's really no clear evidence for leveling a particular entity from our side, from our own credible information. But you might have seen what the Minister of Information for Abia administrative area have issued in his statement, where he leveled the armed youth of Twitch Mayardi, that they have coordinated or they are in collaboration, and even in some messages have went far as bringing in where as collaborators that might have carried out. Of course, we are aware that that particular region, that particular area, it has a what do you call chronic violence between the armed youth of Twitch Mayardit and Ngokadenka. And this violence, I don't really want to call it as a communal violence. These violence are political elites-led violence. And I was involved there for more than 3 negotiations or community mediations, and were able to score certain consensus, but those consensus are really completely undermined by the political elites that come from both sides. So the politics between Twitch, Mayardit, and Abia is getting harder and is getting worse. And it may be characterized soon with elements of crime against humanity or genocide. As you know, the elements are there. And MUNISFA is no longer at a power that can deal with this situation, because remember, the situation is delicate for MUNISFA, the situation is delicate for UNIMIS because of the identity of what ABA is, and specifically what is called ABA box. So has made the situation there very delicate. And any intervention that you want to do around the Twitch, Mayardit, and then Ngokadenka crisis, it have a condition of international position, or you don't need to interfere with certain international status which are really linked with Abiy, and specifically the box, which is a Hague ruling, an international community ruling. Even UN Security Council will find it not easy to deal with that, because it brings in Sudan, it brings in South Sudan in terms of the status of Abiy, as we are aware, it's right from the CPA. So the tension is very high. And I have seen a quick growth of messages, which I can qualify them as hate speech among the sons and the daughters of the two communities. So the situation stands, and I think really what I can recommend is calling upon President in particular to intervene on this situation. I know President have done an attempt before. That attempt was not done in a concrete manner. That attempt lacked the principle of impartiality. That attempt have people who have also an opinion on the crisis in Abyei. Why the crisis now is tense? There are certain facts that I know it may be disputed by our brothers and sisters from Twitch who might have been audience to this, or who may later on listen to this interview. And there are some facts that also will be disputed by our brothers and sisters from Abyei administrative area who might have been listening to this interview or after this interview. But I want to call it spade, black, as a South Sudanese. Whatever is happening in Abyei between the Ngok Denka and the Twitch Mayard is a national issue. It's not an issue that we should sanction it, that is only an affairs of Twitch Mayardi Denka and then Ngok Denka, and then they should try to create a language of isolating others, not to speak about it, or attacking others when people come in. That is a national issue. Like in any other part of the country, as a nationalist, we should not remain silent. One, there's a very serious politics among the sons and daughters of these two conflicting communities, the Twitch Mayardit and the Ngok Denka. Unfortunately, the drivers of this dirty politics are close allies of the president. They're really close. They're really close. So what is going on? I know there's a silence about this. Nobody wants to disclose it. But based on my research and based on my analysis, based on my engagement with the situation, and my interest is to really see the two communities peacefully coexist like previously. One, there's a competition over issues of merging resources in that area between the two communities, between the Ngok Denka and the Twitch. And that's why Aneth become a problem market. And recently, with the crisis in Sudan, there's so many stolen vehicles coming there, revenue have raised. So there's that element of revenue, competition over revenue that are generated at the border points between the two communities. And remember, these revenue is generated in an area that have international status, what we call Abyei box, which some people is giving wrong interpretation, by the way. Some people saying Abyei box is sanctioned by the president. No, it is sanctioned by the Hague ruling. So we should not give a wrong interpretation here, so that at least we understand it very well. So when we approach, that's one thing. Two, there are also our brothers and sisters who want to use this crisis to lift certain political, to have a gain of certain political status in that region. Some people have political motivation that let this violence continue so that we get certain political privileges or return, but on the expenses of losing lives of innocent citizens and lives of intellectuals like Nundeng. So that's another element. Other element is that there are people who are close to the president and in the office of the president are weakening the office of the president in sanctioning this situation. President's office is weak in sanctioning this situation. President's office could have sanctioned this situation. But because the people are close there, they are really weakening the office of the president in sanctioning. And it is an attack on the presidency, by the way. It's an attack on the presidency. This is really not an attack on anything. This situation going on, elites that are driving it, they're attacking the president. So it's an attack on the presidency. And I don't know why president and the presidency doesn't want to sit down and sanction this case. This is one. There's a player who are playing under cover of politics of SPLM and IO, also in the region there. And they don't want to speak out. And this crisis may give them a chance to raise up their voices. But they're silent there. They don't speak out completely. The other thing that is very hard is that there's a personal grievances among political elites of these two conflicting communities, that they're using this violence to manage their personal political crisis. And I saw them very well in the two mediations that I'm there. You find two particular politicians, because they have grievances towards each other, they want to really play their role in using the violence to mitigate their own personal problems. My fifth point I want to bring forward is that also there's a misinterpretation of facts in the region between the Twitch and the Ngok. And specifically when it comes to land boundaries and land disputes in terms of that, it becomes another biggest thing. So this is a result of influential political elites that are close to the center of power in Juba, manipulating the power, the center of power in Juba, not to have the strength to sanction this situation, but they want to use the violence as a ladder to have certain political gains. And these political gains are for both sides, by the way. It's not only one side. We cannot blame one side. Both Twitch Mayardit and Ngok Dinka, some of them want to gain by sort of like forwarding the violence so that they have certain political status gain, which for me, it is completely ridiculous. And it's the behaviors of violence mongers, or what do you call profiteers of violence act. I don't know why they don't take it up. So this is what I like to say. And this situation, it may expand, by the way. We may see it as a Twitch, Mayardit, and Abiy Ngok alone. It may expand to a Sudan and South Sudan crisis. And it may blow up as a Baragazal region issue. Remember, His Excellency, the current sitting governor of Warab, have won the issue of land dispute over Manyan. He have won that the land dispute be commission together. That land dispute, it may attract the expansion of the violence in that region. So as we believe by then that Baragazal is busy relatively calm, it's now breaking into crisis. So there's violence happening almost everywhere in certain parts of Baragazal. It's only northern Baragazal. And remember, previously we were here in an interview, say even northern Baragazal, it may be attracted for this. Remember, there's already issue of whether, what do you call, I will center, who owns the center, where the center belongs to. And remember, in the governors forum, there's a dispute between the speaker of the state parliament of northern Baragazal and the governor over definition of Awil Center. Whose land is it? Already there's a pockets of opportunities there that some profiteers of violence may invest on it. So for me, it is lack of political leadership, lack of political commitment at the presidency, not sanctioning this issue. This issue president to sanction. And that's why we made an appeal. And unfortunately, in the speech of the president of the year, he couldn't really raise up even this issue. In the sense, even this issue happened in the face of the speech of the president. And even until now, we have not seen a very strong national position toward the crisis there. Military solution to any crisis that is being manifested by close allies of the center of the command that offers military solutions, the military solution will never work. Because the same players can manipulate the military directives. And you have seen what happened previously. A military approach was taken there. What happened? It came opposite. Because the people who are supposed to execute the military solution to the crisis are the same people who manufacture the crisis so they can manipulate and weaken it. So for me, my conclusion is that the office of the president needs to take this issue serious and need to sanction. Even some of us are questioning, is it something of gain for the presidency? Are some of them gaining out of it? Why are they so silent like that? You know, and now we're to the level, and I'm quite sure the fear we have, how much we will call for the armed youth of both sides to abstain from using or to refrain from using violence as an instrument of resolving their grievances. We should expect a deadly revenge is going to happen. May not happen now, but a deadly revenge is going to happen. And that may change the scale of the violence. And you've seen it in social media. And of course, in these interviews of ours, some of them are going to react. They will name and shame. Unfortunately, they don't have sense of maturity. They will name and shame even some of these messages that were conveyed. And they will take position and they will silence. And then, you know, this language of South Sudan is where somebody believe my community, nobody to talk about it. And when it's an issue of another community, they don't talk about it. My friends, my brothers and sisters from both sides, every South Sudanese, this issue of Twitch, Mayardit, and Abiy is a national issue. We must all have a say over it, and we must all stop it, and we must all insist to push both complaining parties to use dialogue. And time has come for me that actually we may need to reach to the level of Lex, of Jongole. Remember, Jongole used to have this until when the governor threatened, after we pressurized the governor threatened that one day he will name the people of fueling the violence. I think over Twitch Mayardit and Ngok Denka, we need to name people who are behind this crisis. This is one. Two, look at this crisis happening at a moment that also our elders who comes from this community are on the ground. Bona Malad is on the ground. He has been in South Sudan recently. Francis Deng was there. And I remember even when we took our oath, President questioned Francis Deng over this issue, that it should be sorted out.
Dr. Luga Byung is there too.
Yeah, so all well-informed, educated sons and daughters from both sides, from Twitch, from Ngok Denka, are on the ground, and this violence is happening. Now imagine we have reached to the level of now targeting political leaders. So we're going to boost the security in that region, and this is going to be tough. So for me, solution to the crisis of the Ngok and the Twitch Mayardit does not require us to really waste time of overstretching the energy of our communities. Just the people close to the president need to be sanctioned, and the president in particular need to sanction that issue. This issue does not need any more dialogue. The dialogues that we have held have generated concrete informations. And you come to realize from time to time, positions are shifted, new things are introduced. I will tell you, one of my shameful positions is that the last dialogue where I mediated in WOW, where we are almost responding to directions of the president, we reached for 3 concrete resolutions. We're only left with 1 resolution, which is about the buffer zone. And the buffer zone is neither the mandate of the government of South Sudan alone, neither municipal alone. They require a coordination, which is an absolute responsibility of the president. But some elites use that to the maximum to undermine the consensus reached by the communities. And they take advantage of our paramount chiefs who are not so much informed and educated. The interpretation of what is it exactly our chiefs have elected. Some of them went and manipulate the chiefs to reject, and even ask the chiefs to bring more new things. They drag feet. And I remember even some people are threatened. Some people in the mediation of WOW, some people are threatened, their lives were threatened. They start raising concerns about safety of their lives. Because who is threatening? Their own fellow colleagues whom they know each other. So one of the biggest things Twitch Mayardit and Ngok Denka issue will never resolve until when the elites lift their hands off from misinterpreting what is happening actually and standing not for the reality. This attempt of people want to change history, it cannot really sort out the issue of Twitch Mayardit and Ngok Denka. It's until when political leadership at highest level have to intervene and sanction it. And even you can see the way how people are attacking the governor of Lakes. As if Ring have went there and fuel on Admo. Attacks on his personality, people sending warnings. We are telling you, this is a South Sudanese leader. One of my biggest problems is that we are losing sense of nationalism. We become too tribalistic, and even educated people in diaspora are becoming too tribal. If you see the trend that is changing our national identity, in the beginning we're regional. Now we have shifted from a region, we have shifted by then to the level of the states. In the states now we have shifted to real communities. I will tell you today, communities meetings are highly attended compared to what we call political ideology meetings. Events of national issues are not highly attended like community meetings. And the way people write around community meetings and community decisions are too much. All this is what? All this is simply because the political leadership at highest level have allowed some of their close friends to play around with politics at community level and using communities as a sail, as a ladder to pursue their objectives. That's really my end. I'll let you know that the situation is not encouraging. The situation is getting worse, and the situation is now turning towards targeting lives of political leaders. And that may lead to genocide. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Edmund. Actually, you know, Edmund, something that South Sudan may asking. So I read President Salva Kiir did his speech, New Year's speech, and I have not seen anything about these issues going on between Abiy and Ngok. So I don't know why the president is so quiet on this. And we see that the life of innocent people are lost both sides. And president is still quiet. And why is it he don't come out in public and say something about it? And this elite in Juba, and I hear it when those governor when they speak, this elite in Juba, why is president single this elite in Juba that fueling the conflict between these two communities? And these two communities they are brothers and sisters. Okay, so but this political elite, they are playing a negative role, seeing the son and daughter of a BIC, son and daughter of Tweet, are killing one another. And the political elite and President Salva Kiir is quiet on this. Why is it President quiet on this? What is going on here? How many people he will see continue to die between both two communities before he come out and say something? That's one. Number two, we have seen three governors of Lake State, governor of Warab, and governor of Western Barkazal. They are there, and plus other political. We see Deputy SPLM General Daniel Awanakot is there, and the other leaders in SPLM party and in the government. Do you think what they are doing will bring a lasting peace between Twitch and Ngok? So, or do you? And also, too, you last I remember a few months ago, you playing a very big role with your organization to bring those two communities together to try to make a peace. But what happened? Why your effort failed? So all of this, please comment on those things. And thank you. Go ahead. And I have some of the people who join us in Clubhouse.
Yes, let me start first with why the presidency is silent. For me, one of the biggest things I have started raising is there any team around the president that are smiling when the violence is going on between Twitch Mayardit and Ngok Dinka? And what they smile for? Because I'm somebody who's thinking, actually, even the close people, the office of the president, there are some people need to be cleared because they might have been actually fueling the things. Why should you draft a speech of a leader, a symbol of the country, and undermine incident like this where we have lost the lives of a leader, and there's no response to that? So for me, it is a team around the presidency that need to be checked. Are they completely clean, or are there spoiled products around that are really trying to undermine and trying to be silent over that? That's one thing that I like to raise it, because several times I've made public statements that people who spoil our communities, people who are pushing violence to exist in our communities, are close allies of the top leadership of the country at the various levels. At the various levels, at the presidency level, at the vice presidency level, all of come to realize they have close. And also there's this tendency which has been built as a new culture in Baragaza region, which I don't like it, and specifically with regards to Warab. By then it was Lex, but the ring was able, His Excellency ring was able to control. There's this tendency where leaders are changed because of violence. New governors are brought in because violence is in large scale. Governors are removed simply because violence is unable to be resolved. You are building a wrong culture. You are building a culture that if somebody wants a power, you need to invest on violence to have the power, to either retain it or access it. And you see, this innocent, newly appointed governor of Warab is already on hardship with this situation. And somebody who comes in with the interest of peace and stability, but look at the way how people are fixing things before him. And he's getting it rough. He's getting it rough. So for me, the silency of the presidency, it raises concern. I have to be honest. It raises a national concern. And I wish to see President, at least by Monday, tomorrow, should issue a very strong statement and summon leaders to these issues. I'll give you some facts. Due to the governors forum, I'm struggling to push the newly appointed governor of Warrap and the chief administrator of ABA to meet the president face to face. We've been doing lobby around the governors forum, but there are obstacles. And I think the office of the president is being misled with wrong information. Besides that, there's some politicians who are smiling in the daytime when you bring up this agenda, while actually in the dark they're planning for wars, and they're close to the president. And unfortunately, they can't be named and shamed. And to be honest with you, this is the last interview that I'm doing on the issue of Twitch and Ngok, where I don't want to name people. The next interview, honestly, if it means me losing my life because of standing for peace and stability to prevail between the Twitch, Mayardit, and Ngok, we're going to name people. Some of them are in uniform, some of them are in national security, some of them are in the military, some of them are in the political parties. Some of them even traders, their business community. But because we have been silent about them and they feel they're so powerful that they can't be named and shamed, they continue using the violence there. So I think for me, time has come for us to stand up. I'm really, I'm promising. Next interview, if we have this issue of Twitch and Ngok, we need to name some people. If it means they can take away my life because of naming and shaming them, well and good. I better die for something for the best interest of my citizen than covering things that you know and you see and you don't want to sanction it. That's one thing that I need to be really honest to both Twitch Mayardit elites and Ngok Dinka elites. We are getting facts, and unfortunately, there's no secrets of some of their meetings that they're holding. And I've been telling them, please don't use violence as an approach to mitigate your differences. And so these are brothers and sisters that have coexisted for a long period. Why is it now? And why is it deadly now? And there's some elders who are becoming a curse to the country from both sides. Elders are supposed to mitigate things, but elders are fueling more. If a Christian, the elder role of Simona receiving Jesus is bringing salvation to the society. But these elders, instead of offering salvation, they are fueling more violence. And I think it's a high time we need to name also these elders. We should not keep on respecting somebody, you keep on calling Benji, uncle, and uncle is bringing bullets that takes away lives of people. It's a high time we need to really mention people. And I remember, let me tell you, by the way, I received quite a number of threats when I was in WOW. Quite a number of threats from both sides elites. Even some of them are using security institutions to threaten. Who is Edmund to speak over these issues? What does he know? You undermine, you get, and I'm getting information from their own people that so and so is threatening. So it means those are the people who are fueling the violence to continue. Those are the people who are manipulating. If you allow the communities of Twitch Mayardit and Ngok Denka to resolve these issues at our African traditional way, they can find it without claiming life of a single person. But because we take political agenda over that, we're losing lives. That's one thing I'd like to say. Secondly, whether the efforts of these governors will yield results. The efforts of the governors will never yield results. Why? The issues has becoming more complicated. Why is more complicated? It become question of territorial ownership of the land. And exactly like what this last question which came up is sort of like this person predicted what I'm going to say over this question. The question is no longer now the question of individual. The question is now destiny and faith and identity. And remember, in African context, our identity is always linked with the land. And these things have been complicated. And I say in the land is not free. The land have linked with revenue. The land have linked with political influence. So the political elites have manifested this issue to the level that it become an issue of everybody and become an issue of unity under the line of community and tribe to protect an identity. And I think this need an honest discussion. And the honest discussion, nobody can sanction it apart from the president. To sanction honest discussion, because when I was in the two mediations, through the civil society, the youth, the women, and the chiefs, they were able to point out where are the mistakes that might have provided misinterpretation and have empowered political elites to push. If you take the paramount chiefs, by the way, the paramount chiefs knows the history very well. They can connect, they can name for you names of places, they can name who lives here, who did this decision, who is here. If you leave it to them, they can sort it out. And even if there's a problem, they can find a very soft way of resolving it per the history of the ancestors that have coexist. But because there's politicians who have now taken it as an agenda for political gains, they have made it, they have modified it, that become a very hard problem to resolve. You know? So for me, that is really the biggest issue. Even if to call an international response to this situation, it's not going to be easy. For example, I was proposing that the UNIMIS should establish, UNIMIS have a mechanism called temporary operation based. It's called TOB. We have used the TOB in Tombora to reduce violence between the conflicting communities. It's been used in Tonj. Can it be used in between Twitch and Ngokadinka? It's not going to be easy because there are international issues there. So how much, and I remember, as I said before, the killing of the deputy chief administrator of RBA is a slap on the face of the governors. If this could have been before the governors were there, before they communicated, before they hold those rallies, could have been better. But it was a slap, really. And who planned that slap? If you really go and dig investigation properly, you come to write some people who are at the close periphery of the power in Juba will be named for winning behind that, for fueling that. And let me tell you also, because of the high tension between the two communities, any incident, even if it's a criminal incident, it takes a political agenda. Because anything between the two automatically at the border of disputed area, automatically everybody qualifies it. So I think really we need a very serious independent investigation on the death of the deputy chief administrator. It's not a natural death, it's not an accident, it is an ambush. Why that ambush? Who is behind the ambush and why the ambush is late? What are the factors that fuel the ambush? I think that need to be investigated. And for me, with this concept of the investigation, I would really urge both communities, Twitch Mayardit and Ngokadinka elites, not to take advantage of the situation in shaping messages that add more fuel to violence. I wish both communities should abstain from issuing statements. Both communities should call for independent investigation into this case. And of course, I know several similar investigations were done, didn't lead to any results. Also, why? Because of the top political leadership have no will for using investigation as an instrument of prevention of violence. Several investigations were done, but all of them die naturally, like what late Dr. John Garang have said, that if you want to kill issues, just form a committee. The issue will naturally die. Form a committee to investigate. It will have an automatic death. But I think this time now, we need to go to level of a very serious investigation on this. And you have seen MUNISFA issuing a statement condemning it. So, and of course, MUNISFA have capacity to carry out investigation. UNIMIS can carry out investigation. Government carry out investigation. We need a quick investigation as a preventive measure on this. What happened to the initiative that we did? My brother and my brothers and sisters who are listening, the initiative we did, it's supposed to hold water. If you remember, it goes for 3 months. We're supposed to go to next step of that process between the two communities. But as I said, a group of individuals who are powerful undermine that. And simply what is fueling the undermining of any efforts that we're putting there, it is the silence around questions associated with revenue generated on the ground there, how these revenues are distributed, the silence around those people who might have been out of power, want to use violence as a ladder for power, the silence around those particular individuals who are manipulating facts of history on the ground, you know, the silence around these particular 3 issues I've raised, among others, has fueled the problem and have undermined any efforts. There. And really, I've put an energy with the civil society, and we're able to bring to the two conflicting communities at a hard moment that the president's attempt through Abdul Baghi failed, but when we go as civil society, we're able to break through. And the two communities were able to sign, and they were able to really show us a signs of beginning a new chapter of peaceful coexistence. Besides, some issues are resolved, some issues are left unresolved, but they say we will resolve them as time comes, as time goes, as we keep on implementing the few that we have reached. But unfortunately, they're left out. So for me, we can do more efforts, and I'm still willing to do more efforts on that, around that area. But what we need is, we need consensus of the political elites of both sides. If the elites didn't reach consensus to allow peace and stability to prevail, and consensus on the use of dialogue as an approach, and consensus around let us not use the differences for political gains, we will never make a breakthrough there. You can make something that can act as a Panadol, but not as a sustainable treatment. And I think also the top leadership of the country need to take responsibility to offer sustainable solution to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we move to our agenda number 2, let me, because I have some people in Clubhouse, I want to give them a chance to weigh in. But for those of you in Clubhouse, I would like you guys to limit your talk. So because we have a time, because we have another agenda to talk about. So I will give this before I give microphone back to you, Manon. Let me ask you this, the last one. Edmund, have you heard about a blue book?
I've had the book.
Yeah, I never heard about it until I just learned from Clubhouse yesterday. So can you tell us a little bit about the blue book? Where this blue book come from? Is it from Lake State or in Warab? And what is inside blue book? Thank you. Go ahead.
You know, this blue book is a repetition of the history. Remember when Trabi was losing power of political control in Sudan, and have the Trabi one is called Black Book, isn't it? Al-Kitab al-Aswad. The Black Book. It's the same rationale. It's the same rationale. Nothing is there except arguments for fueling more violence. Nothing is there more of also investing on manipulation and misinterpretation of facts of history. But I wish, this is one thing that I like to make it very clear. As an activist, I wish to land it on the final version of the book, because there's a versions. There's no one single version. There's 2 versions that are flying. This book needs to be published. And those who are behind it need to be really brought forward in such platform and questioned. What does it mean? You know, we're reaching to the level of, we want to start building conflict at the interstate level of the same region, of the same communities. I think some people are really, they are very, 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 very smart in making our society to disintegrate it into a violent societies that you can't resolve it. You leave this blue book, this book about what happens there. Right now, there's a signals of what we call a new manifesto of our society. Is a new trend coming, and this book is part of this culture of people are now building community manifestos, and these community manifestos are built around the issues of political gains that certain class want to do. And I think some people, you know, the level of trauma that we have reached to the level that actually we don't want the state of South Sudan. We don't want the nation. We're traumatized to the level that we want to deal and break into pieces what is called the state of the nation of South Sudan. So for me, in summary, the book contains nothing except factors of fueling more violence. Where does it come from, as you ask? From legs or from where? There's a group of individuals who are behind that. And I don't think that group of individuals can single them to one location. Because some want to qualify it is a concept of the rings approach of stabilizing Rumbek. You want to take it to that region, and no. Please, let's be honest. So for me, that is the call. I would like to say this is a further fueling of violence through this book, and this is a further manipulation of facts to make violence remain sustainable in our communities than nurturing culture of peaceful coexistence. Thank you. And I hope somebody can come on this platform about the book. Those who raise in Clubhouse, as you said, let's hear their version. But for me, I'm still researching on it, and one day I'll present the facts. Not very far. In 2 weeks' time, I'll bring these facts as we see situation come. I think we don't need to keep quiet. We need to speak to these issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we I move to Clubhouse, so I can get more questions from people in Clubhouse. Let's take a 1 minute break. 1 minute water break, and then we come back to Clubhouse. So go ahead and take a water break. Okay, welcome back. We are back. We are back live with Mr. Edmund Yakani live in Juba. So for this time, let me move to Clubhouse. Manon, Mike is yours now.
Okay, thank you, Sas Medit and Lake Media. First of all, Happy New Year's. Let us wish the New Year's to come with more blessings and peaceful South Sudan. And also to our guests, Honorable Edmund Yakani. Happy New Year's for you, and thank you for always being with us and engaging in our domestic affair in South Sudan. I do agree with a lot of comment from Ustaz Edmund that the issue is no longer now can be considered like just a dispute between two communities. It will need a national intervention, at national level. And we have seen the president has issued several committees, but we have not seen the fruit coming out to restore the situation. And I think the reasons, as he said it, if it was just a normal dispute among the two communities, which have been living side by side, would have been resolved. And I think the absence of the rule of traditional civil authority, which is the shifts between both communities, and it's looked like political leaders are playing the role under scene, has become the major problem here. Especially the campaign in social media by intellectual, by both community is not helpful, rather is hurting more. And that's where the issue that politicians in both communities, if they were not behind what is happening and they are not fueling it, why can they stop this social media campaign between both community and building up the hatred, But also we have to acknowledge that president is trying to resolve the problems, and that's why it's issued committee to committee. And we have seen now the last committee is the governors of regionals, Bargazar regions, especially the governor of Lake State, coming in with his experience of resolving the community's conflicts within the Lake State, even though the conflict in Lake State may not be similar to what is happening between Tweed and Locke, because this is an issue to do with the internal boundaries, which is the local domestic boundaries we can call, and also is involved the economic benefit, because the crisis, if we go back to 2022, when the crisis broke out in February, was actually due to demarcation of the innate market. That's where the conflict started. And I think if the government at national level and state level were quick to coordinate and have a response to the crisis, I believe they would have restored the order and would have quickly resolved the issue of the demarcation of the market and coexistence of the two communities, and get back to the normal, and then discuss the issue of the boundaries later on. Because the issue is complicated, as we can see. It is involved in the issue of ABI Bucks and also the Sudan governments, and limitation of South Sudan to do, in one side, to do more effort in resolving this without involving the other stakeholder, international community existence of UNICEF forces in the area, UNESCO forces in the area, and also Sudan now have a crisis. Government of Sudan have a crisis. There are limitations for the South Sudan government. But as we believe that the two communities are South Sudanese communities, even though the ABA protocol is still outstanding between Sudan and South Sudan, we see those communities are South Sudanese communities per se, and they have been living side by side. And I think if there's political will by the leaders in both communities, engaging the civil society and civil authority, traditional authority, because they know their boundaries, and we can be able to resolve the issue. And also the media was fuel the things. We cannot be able to address the media, which is have to come from those two communities, politicians in both two communities. They have to talk to in the way that they have to stop the media campaign, which is actually fueling the crisis itself in terms of building up the hatred among the two communities. And we have seen the South Sudan government also send the forces, but we don't know the limitation of the forces in order to restore the security. You cannot do it alone without involving UNESCO, without involving even Sudan, in order to have a clear strategy how you can stop, or at least stop two communities to continue engaging in fightings. It's not just a matter of ceasefire alone, but it should involve a lot of mechanism how you can broker side, because the peace itself, or negotiation itself, resolve the issue of dispute in the first place cannot, if you cannot stop the aggression between both communities. You have to stop the aggression first. You have to restore the calm between two communities, and then now you can be able to address what was the reason that caused the problem, which issued the dispute on local boundaries. And I think that's what it is. I agree with you that the situation that the crisis get into is no longer can be considered at the state level. Now the president is trying to send the delegation that the governors of regional of Bargazal have to go and address the issue, and it's related to the stability and security. One issue to come is stability and citizen, and threatening the citizen life. Is no longer can be isolated. It's becoming national. If you see the U.S. foreign policy, the most important in U.S. Foreign policy is the security of United States, security of United States citizen. This is number one. This is number one for American, and security for the allies of the United States. So that's where the government responsibility become number one. When it comes to security, it have to be taken care of. Even though the president have a power to replace the governors due to the security reason, but there's some issue that may not be a governor, because the issue that are above the level of the state or the level of the governor. It needs national government intervention, to put effort on it. It does not mean that you replace the governor to governor because of security ground for something that may need the national to intervene, because the governor cannot handle it without effort from national or out intervention to national. So I do agree with Sir Edmund that as long as the politicians in both communities are not coming out sincerely and engage sincerely, like we have seen some meetings, some individual meetings be reported in Juba, the meeting of the Uncle Bona Malwal and Dr. Francis and Luca Biongs and the governor of new governor that is appointed in Juba, without coming out with a clear statement what those meetings mean to us, in terms of finding the solution or at least stop this violence, because it's affecting both communities, and those are the leaders of the communities, those are the politicians of the communities, those are the elders of the communities. There's nothing coming out. If they are really sincerely to resolve this problem, I think they will resolve tomorrow. They will resolve tomorrow, even today, not even tomorrow. But it seems like there is kind of unknown things that is built up among the politicians by both communities, and it become now the crisis of need has become the issue that they want to address their differences in a way that is affecting the innocent citizen, the innocent youth of the future of this country. The youth that actually supposed to defend the border of Abyei, or defend the border of the South Sudan later on, because we don't know how we're going to demarcate the border of Sudan. So now you are fueling those youths to kill themselves, and we're still even waiting for the big fight of how we can maintain or draw the border of 1956 of South Sudan. So I will yell it back to you, and I really thank for the assessments. But I do agree with him that the national government need to do more effort, need to do more diplomacy. If that require them to coordinate, even though Sudan is in crisis, then they have to do it. If it require them also to talk to the international community, the president of the UNESCO in the area, at least we should have some common ground on how we can resolve this problem. How South Sudan can have a way of addressing the security issue as a priority. And security issue, I think, will need involvement of international community because of the president of the UNESCO, and also will need engaging of Sudan, and then the South Sudan government, and then they have to come up with a mechanism of how the security, because this will need to deploy the forces, and deploying the forces with the current ABA map, there's a limitation for South Sudan government how we can deploy the force, and Sudan government is not in the position of at the moment of doing anything or contributing anything, and UNESCO cannot do anything there because their force also are very limited. So it needs some diplomacy to involve in this. We should not see it just as communal conflicts anymore, because now it's go for 2 years, and 2 years is a long time for the crisis between one communities, which actually should have been addressed immediately if there is no any wounds, political wounds that involved in this by people that are actually practicing war, sitting behind and allow the people to kill themselves without shame that what is happening, it have to be addressed and it have to stop. So thank you, Sir Manon. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sir Manon. Thank you. Edmund, you want to say something?
Also, before I hear it back, Sir Manon,
yes,
I want also Sir Edmund, because he is part of civil society, if he can give us exactly where is the role of civil traditional authority in this crisis, because I have not seen, because also without involving a civil authority or civil traditional authority, I don't see the solution here will come without engaging the grassroots, because the grassroots are Salatin and youth on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good question.
Put a comment later on of their role on this crisis. Thank you.
Very good. Yeah, thank you. That's a very good question. Edmund, go ahead before I move to other person in Clubhouse.
Thank you very much. First, I do agree with my colleague over the nature of the crisis. That one I do.
Yeah, we can hear you. Oh, sorry, I am on mute myself. Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. So for me.
Then move on. I just ask the last question. He will answer later on.
Okay.
Regarding the role of traditional civil authority that we have not seen. We have not seen their role here. Thank you.
Yeah, he's responding now. Yeah, go ahead.
Yep. So for me, his comments I'm in consensus with it. I don't want to repeat much more on that. But as I said, is that the ball is in the hand of the political elites of both communities, and they need to build consensus. That's my comment on his comment that I've raised. The traditional leaders, I would like to say, in the last mediation where I was involved in, the paramount chiefs from both sides were there. And not only the paramount chiefs and with other chiefs that build up the status of the paramount chief. They're all there. And some chiefs have intermarriages that they can, from both sides, they can name. They can name marriages, they can name exchange of traditional benefits. They were there. And actually, they help us a lot in putting the facts on the table. And they were able to nurture compromises on certain manipulations of data. They were really, really, really useful and effective. And remember also in their meeting with the president, when the president was visiting Baragazal, what we call a con meeting between the president and the traditional leaders, even they were able to give the president guidelines on the 4 action points that later on we build the mediation on it. My only disturbance is that the political elites are undermining the traditional authorities. They believe the traditional authorities anymore should not engage on setting stability in the country. The agenda of stability among our communities is being hijacked by political elites. Even some of them are threatening the traditional leaders. I remember when I was in WOW, some of them are warned the traditional leaders, even some attend the traditional leaders. If you make a mistake, you'll see the consequences. You'll be responsible. So they start creating a sense of fear in traditional leaders that they can't make decisions. My experience in the country, in all the communal conflict I've gone to, the best mediators are traditional leaders. The moment you give them the space, the moment you give them the chance to draw conclusion, the moment you give them to nurture compromises, you break through. I will tell you across everywhere, they're the best. But also my experience have shown me of several mediations across the country that the moment communal violence, politicians start putting their fingers into it, it's becoming more complicated. And why more complicated right now? After the 2013 crisis, the parties that are signatories to the revitalized agreement are also using community differences to champion an agenda, to undermine their counterpart. There's a question, should Twitch Mayardit commissioner be an SPLM or SPLMIU? That politics going on, and nobody don't talk about it. Nobody don't talk about it. So there are some politicians who want to have loyalty and attention of the leadership by investing on this small dispute and politicizing it around the line of the political parties that sing the river. So the mushrooming of these political parties have added more hardship for resolution of conflict, or what we call peace building in our communities. So my answer to him is that traditional leaders play a big role. But let me tell you one thing, my brother, to give an example of how they have been undermined. Today, if the paramount chiefs from both communities say they want to meet the president as a paramount chiefs plus their subordinates, and they want to give president an option on what the solution is, political elites will come and hijack this call of the chiefs. Can we here call for political elites to distance themselves and allow our traditional leaders to nurture? Because let me tell you, some of these political elites are very far from the consequences of the violence. And for them, the consequence of the violence give them relevance of voice. So when there's no violence, they don't have relevance of voice. But the actual people who paint the brand of the violence are the traditional leaders, because for them, they're in the community, they have nowhere to go. And they have families that are intermarriages. I will give an example recently. There's an incident which happened prior to this incident of ABA between Mondari pastoralist youth from Tali and Moro farmers from Mundri East, county of Western Equatorial State. And one youth from Moro take a law into hand, kill a Mundari. Besides the Mundari, the perpetrator of the Moro was arrested to face the law, but this issue was quickly taken over by political elites until the Mundari went and revenge in a place called Lakamadi. and they lost 2, and Murua injured. And as today we speak, it has become taken a different dimension. It's not a dispute of 2 youth from 2 different communities with 2 different identities. It's no longer a crime. It became a political agenda for some political elites. And soon we'll hear another crisis that happened in that region. You see? So we have not just certain political attitudes among our political leaders that you must have relevance in your community when you're able to push your community to remain hardliners and champion violence. But you don't feel the brunt of the pain. And what's going on the social media? And unfortunately, which is for me is a pain, diaspora. Not all of you of diaspora. I know some people are actually in Juba claiming to be diaspora. They have fake names with fake locations. But I don't blame all diaspora. There are few criminal-minded individuals, whether in diaspora, whether in Juba, whether in the region, or whether within the state or within the community, in social media, posting things that they don't value the impact of their messages in claiming lives of innocent people and creating hardships. Children are unable to go to school to learn in the same way you are educated today. You're using social media. You are denying some children access to school by fueling violence because you believe you're educated. For me, it's a hard time for us to question our attitudes. It's a hard time for us to question our spirit of nationalism. It's a hard time for us to question, do we need to remain a country of communities? Should we establish a government that is a government that responds to communities' interests? Yes, communities are very important. We don't ignore, we don't dispute that. Communities have a big role in shaping governance. But should we use it for fueling violence? And should communities have access or voice or access to power through violence? This is a ridiculous attitude. And honestly, this is a culture of political curse. This is not a culture of political blessing. Politics is supposed to be a blessing to our communities, but unfortunately, you have seen what happened. And most of them are learned with due respect to the level of their education qualifications if you hear them. And you see them writing messages. You see them manipulating facts of interpretation. It really annoys and it's painful. And actually one start questioning whether our education is a blessing for our society or our education is a curse. Not all of us, few of us. And I'd like to take this opportunity to call upon people who are using social media for fueling violence. Rwandan genocide started with messages through media platform. By then it was radio. Now with social media, manipulation of information can take a quick shape and can claim lives of people. Let's prevent genocide by not manipulating or fueling violence through media platforms. Thank you.
Thank you, Edmund. Let me move to next, Francis. Francis, if you can hear me, you can open your mic now.
Yes, I hear your boy, Mr. Madid. Well, let me greet all the viewers and Happy New Year, everyone. And I believe 2024 should come to our heart, the citizen of the nation, to appreciate the demand, or we had ourselves for no reason. I hope this God will come to our heart and find a way to love one another. Let me greet also a guest, Mr. Yakani from Juba, for highlighting everything for us, what is going on in Nigeria and Trinidad community within Wera. Yeah, someone can wonder what is going on between Abia and Twitch would be stopped early, long time ago. But like what brother Yakano mentioned, this war took it away, even all involved, the both side politicians, and also all the diaspora, which I call them educated people while they don't know the benefit of their people. That what fueled this thing up. And I believe what happened, killing the deputy chief, administrator of ABA, is a very, very alarming situation. And it is me now, think everything fall out of hand right now. And if the new year, which is 2024, the government don't have a strong position, then I believe it will produce a lot of escalation between the two communities. And I believe it will not be Abiy alone at it. Yeah. Let me ask him the question before you were wrote it on, before I move on. Is it the issue of Abiy and Tweet? Now, it seems like Brother Yakani, I think the government of South Sudan now is the transitional government of national unity. And we have the partner with this government. And it seems like the government of IG alone dealing with this situation. I don't see another partner to join the side for Abiy issue. Is it this thing issue, the issue of Abiy belong to IG or will involve the government of national unity? Because I see the parliament or the transitional parliament or the transitional government are silent and everything left now to the SPLIG. Is it this issue of Abiy and Tweet will be handled by the IG alone, or it will involve the partner which is share the cake with the IG, which is the IO and the SOA and whatever who on board with RCP? That question you will answer it, because it seems we the people of South Sudan, when we look at here, it seems the blame, the incapability of not to stop war between Twitch and Abiy that credit go to IG alone. Is it IG alone, or this will including the partners? This question, I think you will answer it. Let me move on. And I believe Lagos State Media, and particular Brother Madid, for the wonderful job you're doing. You know, a lot of people sit back and watch, because we see this social media become volatile, and anything come to social media. It mess up everything. Even if you took your family affairs into this social media, even the case could be settled, would not be settled at all. Because the way we handle our own affairs as a Southern Sudanese is difficult and is difficult. And that is why I think the failure will be not the government of people alone. And the failure would not be our citizens back home alone. The failure will, and I blame, the most blame come to our side, are the people who so-called themselves they are educated, and they come and hide their face in club hours in social media. They are the ones trying now to hold this rope, and they don't, even when people make a comment, when they're talking, they don't use the forgive one another word. They use to fuel up the violence. So this thing would be not good. Also, question to I think Brother Manon Ball, I would about to ask him. Me, I believe on government of South Sudan IG, but the way everything hitting right now, and the president don't take this seriously, I don't think it will be look good for the president to be in Juba while the citizens are killed themselves around the country, particularly the issue of Abiy and Mediation. And I believe also the government of South Sudan could not rely on the statutes of Abiy saying Abiy is governed by the two presidencies. What is the Sudan right now? If we keep relying on that, there's nothing would let us rely on Sudan anymore. You see Sudan in chaos. There's no government in Sudan. The government now is located in Red Sea, which is in Port Sudan, and is already being chased away by the unknown government, which is Damasria now is unknown government. The reason I call Damasria is unknown government. If the government rob its people and loot its people and rape its people and kill its people, do you think that government could be trusted? And that government is the one who already control Kurtuban, control own Kurdufan, and there's no government of Sudan, which is Quran, which is called himself is the president of Supreme Council or whatever of what's called Council of Sudan. So I believe the government of South Sudan have a chance to talk to the East Africa community or to the IGAD or to the AU or to the international community to intervene. And they can use the leverage of, because Sudan is not functional right now. And they're supposed to come in and see and go deep in ABA and see who is behind supporting youth of ABA. And also, they should go deep to tweet and see who is behind deep support treatment-yarded youth. If that is a politician, the government of South Sudan have a role to play, to call the politician like Dr. Luka Byung-Deng and Francis Mading-Deng and like Deng Alor, and also the side of Greek like Onaman or another politician. And he have a right to get them together, transitional leaders together on the table and see why this thing is continuous without stopping. So I believe that otherwise the president don't see this thing. If the politicians are behind it, they're behind the killing, let youth killing each other.
Brother Francis, you have less than 1 minute to wrap it up. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I believe is the job of the president to bring both sides together, and it's the job of the president to see if the both sides resist, not to listen to the government. Yeah, Jama, Mikela Bata, sorry, Mikela Bata Neda. Yeah, the government of South Sudan have a right to make it a zone, to put a SSPD, a massive amount there, and put it a buffer zone, and put those treat that side and put Abia that side, not to attack each other anymore. But I believe this thing, the government don't need to do that, and a government will pay the price, because if you let your citizens kill each other while you're silent, while the people don't see you moving quickly, then me, the Francis, even I'm the one who supposed to support the government, I will withdraw my hand because I will see that my government is the incapable government not to protect me if something happens later on. So thank you, Brother Madid. And if there is anything come around later on, I will comment. But we need to make sure we criticize all the government and even the transitional government to not to be IG alone. And they need to be right. Otherwise, we will lose our patience to the government. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Francis. Edmund, you want to respond to, or do you want me to take one more question? And then I have I have 3 more people.
I think let's take more. Let's talk more so that we don't repeat the same thing.
Okay, good. So our next is General Ladiang. General Ladiang, if you can hear me, you can open your mic. Thank you.
Yeah, can you let this guy call what Bagat speak and then come back to me because I'm busy right now in a minute.
Okay. So that sounds good. Thank you, General Ladiang. Okay, Brother Bagat, if you can hear me, go ahead. Thanks.
Okay, shukran Madid. Let me pass my greetings to Mr. Francis, General Ladiang, Mr. Dominic, and say Happy New Year to all of you and to the audience down there. Yeah, actually, I'm attracted by the fact that to listen what Edmund Yakani was saying. Edmund Yakani, in one of the voices that represent the people of South Sudan for a long time, despite all the difficulties he's facing, but he remained the only voice that is loud to represent the people of South Sudan. Yeah, actually, and you have touched some issues here, like the role of traditional leadership or the chiefs, and how the government is trying to use them in a wrong way. Yeah, actually, the first mistake made by SPLM is politicizing the chiefs, like force everyone to be SPLM. How come a chief become a party member? That is alone is wrong. Because the chief is someone who's supposed to be neutral. He should not be affiliated with any party. But unfortunately, it's a copy of and paste of the Mu'tamar al-Watani policies in Sudan, whereby they were forcing the traditional leaders to be part of Lejna Shabia or to be part of Mu'tamar al-Watani. And that will destroy their neutral role in the community. So the traditional leadership are no more neutral. That is why the role is not functional anymore. It's already destroyed. That is very unfortunate. And we can see that what happened in Wow. Yeah, actually, people almost reached the final agreement on how to solve the conflict. But many chiefs were intimidated by the intellectuals, especially intellectuals from P. And as we've seen in Wow, leaders from ABA signed, or the chiefs from ABA signed the document that would have resolved the issue, but the chiefs of Tweet were forced not to sign by the Tweet politicians. And nobody condemned that. The other thing is the SPLM role in ABA case in general. The whole government of ABA is only comprised of SPLM, IG. They never allow any party in South Sudan to be part of ABA government. And right now, also, if you talk of who is governing ABA, it's South Sudan. Because all the ministers, the governor, the currency, the curriculum, everything indicating ABA is under control of South Sudan, except the oil that is divided 50-50. But otherwise, everything 100% is under control of government of South Sudan, but IG only. Okay, which is very unfortunate. Also, they should apply the power sharing thing in ABA also, because ABA is one of the administration that is part of South Sudan government. Also, we can see the other thing that is fueling conflict is the assassinations. That is making a lot of suspicions. People become suspicious of how come, like the Tidwell, who are supposed to be like youths who are just fighting over land, how they leave the issue of land and start assassinating high-profile politicians or people from ABA. This is the third person to be killed now. They kill a minister, they kill executive chief, and now they kill the deputy governor. We don't know who is next and why. Tidwell would leave the issue of land and fight with Tidbai and start targeting government officials. That will raise a lot of questions. Who is behind Tidwell? Who is giving them security information that are sensitive? Who is collaborating with them? That is raising a lot of questions and can take the conflict into another direction that we don't want to happen. Also, someone said social media is fueling the conflict. Yeah, actually, social media is fueling the conflict, especially when some people who are educated intentionally misleading their communities, so they can gain some benefits. Okay, they just intentionally misleading the people, giving them wrong information. That is one of the worst things happening regarding this conflict. Yeah, so the thing is that, if the government, is actually at some points, they could reach resolutions and could reach what can resolve the conflict, like the recommendations of Council of the States and their report. That is a roadmap of how to resolve this conflict peacefully. But unfortunately, the government is refusing to implement those recommendations. And at the same time, they are expecting peace. How can you expect peace while you don't want to put the solution into practice? You are preventing the solution, and now you're hoping for peace. How come? It's like when the government of South Sudan encouraged the people of Abyei to conduct a communal referendum. They supported them. Everyone was given leave, everything. And then when the referendum finished, they just took the result and locked them down in the office, and that's it. They didn't explain to people of Abyei why they actually encouraged the people to conduct this referendum.
Brother Bagat, you have 1 minute. Go ahead, put your last remark.
Actually, like the behavior of government of South Sudan are like very straight and displays a lot of the double standard. Okay, like in the one example, I'll give you two examples. One is the percentage of Abyei in oil, the 2%. 2% was never given to people of South Sudan since 2005. And I don't know what that has to do with the final status of Abyei. These are rights. We need development regardless of the status. But the same government are keeping silent on our rights. And the other example is the way they are handling this issue between Morgan Tweet and the way they handle the result of referendum. They encourage the people, and then they just refuse discussion. They refuse even to give explanation of why things happen that way. So I don't think government of South Sudan is willing to resolve the conflict between Morgan Tweet, because they have already chosen their side, which is Tweet, and they want Tweet armed youth to take this land by force, not by court, not by traditional ways, but they just want them to take the land by force. That is the side. That is their side. That is the side that they are supporting. That is why they don't want to implement anything. So I don't think the government of South Sudan itself is part of solution. They are part of solution. So this issue is going to be international issue, not just between government of South Sudan and people of Abyei. It's going to be an international issue. And thank you. I will stop here.
Okay, thank you, Brother Bagat. Let me move to General Adiang. Are you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm ready. Yeah, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Happy New Year to those on the podium and those who are listening. Especially, who is it? Especially, let's see this. Why am I not showing this? Especially, I think the one who hosts the show in South Sudan. Now, I think it's afternoon, and it is very good to bring this agenda up. Actually, I'm from Tweet Mayadit. I live in the United States, and I know I used to go there and come back. I know the cause, and this become. It's not like a state to state. It's not like small thing. The violence getting high and high. So the central government is supposed to step in, agree with those who spoke before me, and now we are stuck here. You see, I don't like this, what's going on. Some of my family, they got killed too. So this is not a joke. And some people here, South Sudanese, you got the small thing. It's not a small. It's not a common. People who go and no, it's not like that. Especially recently, governor of Lagos State, when they're crashed up, very unfortunately, doing like something green book or something to do with. It is like people who raiding a cattle and tips and something to do it. But our problem is not a theft. Our problem is not very cattle. Our problem is bigger than that. And you guys see it on the news. And we try to implement that book to solve that problem, which is not fit in. You see, our governor is new. He just got there. He's still roaming around, see what is the solution here. And problem in where I stay, there is so many tribes that are fighting. some other from, several of them. They are fighting. Our fight with this now, it is bigger than that. It is bigger than that. You see, bigger than that. What I mean by that, even recently, in 48 hours ago, official has been killed, and the official has been killed. This is raised a flag line. So that one is raised from fight to another level, and this one, central government, which is supposed to step in on there, either bring a force to quiet these people, or to make a solution politically or otherwise. Here we go. See, nobody likes war. War is destruction, and it's not. You're not going to gain anything both sides. You see, you're going to teach them or teach back, or there is negative forces that involve people, and nobody will win this war. People can be entertained by the war. The war is not taking us nowhere, and it's destruction. Nothing we can get. So I was recommend central government, not just a local, not just state to state.
General Young, can you speak a little bit loud? Your voice is too low.
This one went beyond that. Not politician.
General Young? General Young, can you hear me?
Like this green book, whoever brought green book in Africa, it is Gaddafi, Muammar Gaddafi.
General Young, can you hear me?
That green book was fit in the leaf. It has not fit in South Sudan. So it is just something else. What I'm concluding here, I know central government has to do something about it, either by force or by political will or by negotiation. I know it's going to end. But what about people who die? What about property damage? What about all of this? See that? Collateral damage. Human die. See that? This is not good for both of us. I don't like it. See that? See, to happen in that way. What can I do? I have to voice my voice. See that? To central government to step in either way and leave these politicians aside, the both sides. They are the one feeling them. See that? So that is where I feel like, I don't feel okay in this continuation of this. I'm not going to gain anything. Gain destruction. So, ladies and gentlemen, this one is not a good thing. Happen. Both of us will be happy about this. And if they don't stop, it will continue anyway. Because there's nobody care about Bob die or Trini had to die. They are terrifying high, they are quiet. Why they are quiet? And they are hearing all of this. How many events have? You know, and they take it easy. There's nothing easy here. They take it easy, we go to 2024. I think. See that? And I don't like it. Nobody likes it. So anyway, I'll rest my case here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just appeal to central government to step in. Or otherwise, we drag it out somewhere we don't know the year. So thank you very much. You guys pass the mic back to Madrid.
Thank you, Jorodiang. Jorodiang Edmund is one of the SPLA veteran. Thank you. Let me move. The last person is Dominic. Dominic, go ahead. Hello.
Tamam.
Alhamdulillah.
Ada topic bita Michael Galutal Baki Pamul involved Michael bita wara mana bita ya bita na bita ahaya bita parudak. Okay, Michael Tabiai. Yogo. Any namul welding P3 history after itabarif doli tim garway dwalla doli tim garway dwalla ya wichi be istiabi tariyak machar after women amul machakal ma doli tim yada ya kulu nuar kulu jai ki malwa they told that Michael Deita there is no word between Kibang and Riyak Machar no more elu Michael da after Johnson rindu Michael ma doli tim ma paide che tantan ka tipanga the pie Talpa Kiir jai chilta ya aida Johnson rindu juba Talpa Kiir into Michael people try to play Talpa Kiir or Talpa Kiir need to involve government of South Sudan Karabu by politician of SPLM 75 leadership of SPLM Karabu 4.5 billion bita Talpa Kiir. Pihai hukum the leader bita kucha kalma hita bitra burui deng alor chal burui magar ya riam machar chal burui nal del jidu bita SPLM chal burui. Yeah, there is no government of South Sudan. You cannot blame Kiir. Kiir try to survive because hukum ta Kiir they cheer in power. Yeah, what about young council got me na I got to kumta kid na bita wara pala na bita dol da be supposed to come to God. It's all my calendar. Yeah, would they yom da pilada? Lada dol is him of the five Michael Tamar of Taria because Marvataria who are minister interior. Yeah, when the people are dog fight, Kulu they own it also what they fight themselves. After that, Elu Michael de Galumwaya Gane, yeah, Elu Michael. People bita warap near coach bita yeah dinka ben kulu yeah I final tani no ma der belet I don't kulu de dinka kulu yet they're supposed to solve this problem. Talpa Kiir into my color. Talpa Kiir to my problem into my jacket into peace bita the little man I get it. The into peace ma Kiir. Who peace ta Kiir Maria little manager. We need to tell people warap. I know Bonamalwala cut the Kulu 1956, the Mapi Iba, not University 1956, year 1905, the cut the long time ago, Nino Pool, Michael Tabet, they need to solve this problem. Yeah, they yell with Hatom and Eve. Abil and Ken, they fight themselves, they kill themselves, two brothers because Mabdol Grimana, but Mama Vito never involved. Chuburiakta, into Michael Vito, Loai now Vito Amul Pai. I will never involve in one side. You have to say, oh, doesn't want to let them Michael Tanwar not to help. Chubu Kiir, is not to be involved in this problem. Kiir, has a into Michael Madangol, want to run for position of Kiir, the disabled guy, into Michael Madolis in Biara Jack, Galu put position for 2 years. Galu never enough to watch out. They are Michael. Nobody will tell more than Kabir. Nor Garamul Pai beside Betaria, Dinka Amul Pai now beside Betaki. Yeah, after that we need to solve this problem. They are una with Abiada who got to Kumtaki. Kiramul Abia to stretch on it and next 5 years to Kuru life. Yeah, who they Ventu, Unity State, Jonglei, Malkan, Maladel. Yeah, they are okay. Elu Michael. Why did the other 1956, 1905? Either normal one, little more whether do the one whether we don't know, little bit Malta. Yeah, it to my gulu. Oh, Abia Katawina Machile, I type it Arab. No. Yeah, we don't know what Abia take away from Ulisa Ginubin, Bukalam, I return that Dinka. I know Abia, I know more into 9 Dinka. Yeah, those are the original Dinka. Why the war of God enough? Now, if we want to solve this problem, but now the Abiaka will come to Kiir. I point near why, I will not war after. Yeah, Governor Talib is a good governor. All the head Cuba and Chubumbar need to make Canada. But Ringma to end up Amul Solid because Ringma to end outside the Self-Key in 1991. I never ran away from Self-Key government. Only the best governor. A Kulunal del Jaisi, Arab, the Jaisi went there. I know that Kumta and the garden up with him, Michael, let the war continue. We need to solve this problem. We need to tell Self-Key stay away from this problem. I my chaka the key Viji Kalampo. Key after the day, I will leader with East Africa. 7 leader. Why leader with Africa into Michael Apollo? Key the day, key that you the piece to be told, I could be for the internet. Who look at the eye Marabu, I will let book. Lo ai mara bo wala bugro taban. Kiir de munu kabir min Kiir ma ai kon ma nya wala 1942 lita ya bakalam. Chubu Kiir de yo de ya wa youth kabir min je min wani kar. Ya ma cha de a youth too. Ya wala 1950. Akir wala 1951. About PI Michael Tajir no Sudan could be rather Kiir. You guys stay away from Kiir. Lo Kiir amul malte bito pe jinubin with a HPLM because HPLM really keep 75 for Sarah Guru. Women are army lita gare kala. Oh, I need a position Kiir. Biara Jaga Guru pe ya had a Sarah Guru to the minister bita in economic. Yeah, those PhD they got the internet. Some of them got 200 the USP Canada Australia. Yes, they try to say that law, I told I'm involved enough. Yeah, want to take money. Yeah, Michael, you have to take this problem this serious. We need to tell people who are up. My high now with RBA. Yeah, because RBA they have right. Yeah, they're good, you know. Why are a good now hunky now without bellet after the Bamuluke? I told you, I mind the bellet. Michael, yeah, don't put in the wrath of Kiir. Kiir into Lord Bito, Guru Bito Terabo.
Dominic, you get it into the wide bus.
Okay. Yaw and intade yaw Michael de we put Pira vita leader vita BA Pilate vita Waraben al Burmal Pilate Francis de Mamada. Nin put Beralta now they'll keep away from Kiir into Lord Pito into my chapel to the leader vita is Africa, Kira the Decabadina, using their keep Pira to there whatever which you do. We need to support Kiir sometime. You guys stay away from Kiir into Lord Pito, let them fatay my chapel to. They are then in time.
Shukran, Dominic, and the rest of you. So you guys can move yourself down to the audience, and then you guys can listen to Edmund your response. And I don't know if we can bring up the second round because we have a lot of people who want to come up, Edmund. So go ahead and answer to those people, and then I will bring the second round, and then we can move on. Let's go.
Yeah, it's upon us whether they want to go for the second round or we invest a lot on this and see the second round where we can go ahead again. So my comments are going to be general. I'm going to answer because also I want to hear a lot of people's opinion because it's good to give chance for exchange of knowledge and ideas rather than really acting as a one speaker. One, I would like to say the call around state of emergency and deployment of SSPDF on this particular situation is very complicated. Why is very complicated is because of the ruling of The Hague. And remember the ruling of The Hague, even if there's no functional government in Sudan, international community will have a say over it. And that's why I like the one of the speakers say it's a question of diplomacy. We need to engage in diplomacy now here because we're losing lives. We can't lose lives because of The Hague status, but we need to engage in diplomacy. So for me, that's really, you can't easily declare a state of emergency there and you can't not easily deploy because deployment of SSPDF there per the ruling of The Hague, it may be a violation. Even per the mandate of MONUSFA may be a violation from South Sudan government. So those limitations which were mentioned before by the first speaker are very important for the government to engage on those issues. And I think still the government also have a responsibility to use other means to prevent this violence. This is one that, so I like to say, even if I do deploy so many forces there, as long there's a lack of political will among the political elite that shapes those two communities' opinion, we can't win. We can't win completely anything there. So it really, the ball is in the hand of the political elite to reach consensus and to drive this and to allow other structures to play their role, like traditional leaders, civil society, youth groups, women can play a big role. Women in my mediation in WOW, women have played a big role for the ceasefire in the first round. And even the second round, they're really very strong. Women and youth because they really feel the brand of the violence on them. So I think for me, that's something like to bring forward. In terms of crimes, both communities bear responsibility for crimes that we may consider as human rights violations. I can't say one community is clean. All communities are involved in human rights violation issues because also I've seen images of burning, torture, and all this from all sides. The element of targeting political leaders or political elites is a new development that is coming up. And I'm going through, it's going to repeat itself from one community to another if we don't intervene to prevent. That for me is going to become a new trend of diversion or lifting the problem to another level where we now start using element of assassination of really renowned leaders, like what happened to the deputy which we strongly condemn that this is a wrong approach that shouldn't be given any room to be embraced or entertained or even qualified to be an approach. So for me, that's one thing. One of the biggest is why resolutions of this conflict. This conflict have several resolutions. You have the resolutions of the Abdul Baghi committee, Vice President Abdul Baghi. His committee was assigned by the president. You have the resolution of the Council of States, which actually sort of like expand more clearer and more detailed compared to the Abdul Baghi. And remember, because Abdul Baghi, Vice President Abdul Baghi's intervention was so much challenged by both sides. And then you have the resolutions of different community meetings that were held on the ground, plus the one which I was engaged in. One thing that I saw it very clear on this issue of Twitch Mayardit and Ngoko Dinka resolutions implementation is that the political elites want this resolution to be implemented that give them personal gains. They don't see peaceful coexistence as one of their political gain out of these resolutions, though they will claim in a public and say we call for peaceful coexistence. Can you believe part of it is what happened to the removal of the governor of Warab? Some people just say he don't deserve it. So because he don't deserve it, you start manifesting violence to remove the governor out. So for me, implementation of the resolutions need a commitment there. Second thing, there are people who are anti-peace and stability around the president, and they undermine such resolutions. You see, if you look at the national dialogue resolutions, that president been blamed on it. And I don't know how much were informed when there were a group of elders from the region who went to give their own interpretation of certain resolutions on national dialogue to the president and scared the president. So before anybody make a decision about, these resolutions should not be implemented, some elders have already taken a position of undermining the resolution on national dialogue. And it's the same thing. What happened to this resolution of Twitch Mayardit and Ngok Dinka? There are some elders, the resolutions will be signed as you are planning to design an implementation for them to go and give their own interpretation. If you don't listen to us as elders, if you don't really have attention as elders, we are warning you of this. The only unfortunate thing is that also sometimes His Excellency President give in for these elders instead of chasing them away from his office. Listen to them too much also. And if he doesn't listen, some people, the political elite who design these elders will come and then put more fuel. This is how resolutions are undermined in various interventions or various dialogue or various engagement in the country. Look at the wastage of money on the National Economic Conference, which were champions. We call for the National Economic Conference to be held, and we're proud that National Economic Conference was held. But look at the way how the methodology is wrongly designed, how the methodology is being used for some people to fist money to their pockets. So we have this group of political elites who are now just looking at any opportunity as an opportunity of getting money. They hear there's a dialogue between these two communities. They want to go there to either get personal political gain for appointments or remove somebody from power or got an opportunity to have a community buy-in and showing themselves legitimate. So these three aspects is really elements of trauma within our political elites across the country. Things that can be easily resolved can be turned to become a communal violence. I'll give an example. Look at the commission of Magui. Criminal cases is not turning Magui need to fall into crisis because commission is under arrest. And nobody explain why. So for me, the whole thing is around this class of politicians who tend to take advantage of misunderstanding among our communities for their political gain. They complicate things worse. Even after this issue of a net market, the issue of the borders, if you listen to the narratives that comes from the chiefs, is a narrative that can narrow differences and can build a pathway for peaceful coexistence. But if you see the narratives that comes from political elites, It's a narrative of competition over resources. We need to gain out of that resources. And when they say they want to gain out of that resources, it's not a gain that goes to the communities, a gain that goes to the individual pockets or they as a clique. So if you look at the issue of the land, the history of the land, and by the way, I want just take an advantage of this issue of the land. I would like to communicate to all South Sudanese in this platform. Land dispute is not a single community issue. Land disputes across the country is the next agenda of our wars. And with this newly land policy that came in, if we're not careful, we're going to kill ourselves over issue of land ownership and land definition of land interpretation, who have good movement of our communities. And by then we have chiefs who are very good-hearted, giving some communities a land to live in, and later on, this land is manipulated. And all those issues of the land, honestly, is not an issue of a particular community or a particular region. It's a complete issue at the state level, at the county level. People are going to kill themselves. And that's why I'm one of the persons who's advocating that if I could define a federal system also should define geographical territorial ownership so that we sort out this problem once for all. Because soon our next war is going to be land, by the way. And the war of the land is going to be deadly, and it's going to be in a way that nobody can take responsibility at a national level. So because everybody has his own land issues now, why should I bother about yours and while I'm handling mine here? So for me, political elites, the question of the land, let us not manipulate history. Let's not give a wrong interpretation. And if there's a revenue that are generated because of the land, let us not use the way how we're advocating for this revenue to be used. We want to use it as an agenda for fueling violence among our communities. So for me, that's the biggest issue I'd like to bring to attention. And I feel, honestly, diplomacy is needed over the issue of Twitch and Ngokodenga. And you hear people saying it's an international issue. Yes, it's an international issue, but we can't wait. Where is the international community? Because here we're losing lives. So we need to find a middle ground of coming together as leaders that face the reality and take the reality in a sense that secure peace and stability for our communities. After all, who is going to live in this earth forever? How many millionaires have died? Have they taken them their money? How many renowned people have died? Have they taken them the land? So, but can we take a sound-minded position and say, okay, here is the issue. How do we handle it in a non-violent way where we don't lose lives of innocent citizens? By the way, business committee is part of this crisis. Huh? Let's not keep them that they're holy. Even faith-based leaders, by the way, religious leaders, some of them are not holy. The only people I'm really, really genuine after, and I really like them, is the traditional leaders. For them, spade is spade. If it is wrong, they'll tell you it's wrong. It's right, it's right. And they will give you evidence that you cannot dispute. That doesn't need science. Just need the facts that the chiefs can prove. Naming of places, history, and all this. So these are the people we need to empower them to keep stability among our communities. Let us use our politics in nurturing the process of building our state and our nation within the global community or regional community than really getting down there as a political elite for that. So for me, those are my comments that I'd like to bring forward. But for me, to be honest, politics around Twitch and Ngokodenga between the parties to the agreement is another factor that complicates everything. I know there's this call whether ABA should be having a power sharing. Yes, there's an agreement among the parties about distribution of power at state and local government level, but still the principle of the parties need to go for that. But should we use that as a factor to fuel violence that claim our lives and you say we're political parties? Should we challenge the political leadership under one particular party by using violence that claim lives and you say we're in politics? This is not politics. This is ridiculousness. This is culture of irresponsible person. This is a culture of political immaturity, political indiscipline, and these are characters of people who does not have a sense of humanity. Politics that claims lives is not politics. Politics that makes you out of sense and you can't reason without the use of violence, this is not politics. This is just arrogance, this ridiculousness, and this is a claim that people claim that we are educated and we are learned. If you're learned and your own position as a learned person is to fuel violence, what education have we got it? It's a curse, it's not a blessing. And that's what I'm saying. We are so much traumatized that our trauma is now claiming the lives of our own people. So for me, politics around the issues of Twitch and Ngokodinka, we should put it down. We should allow the traditional leaders to set the scene and to define, and let us engage in finding a way of how to mitigate this. So as I repeat myself, our next war is going to be war of land. And the war of the lands are going to be terrible, honestly. And that's why political leadership need to take responsibility now. An honest discussion is required over the issue of the land. There's a migration of population. That migration we should take serious in making an interpretation into land ownership. And also we should not manipulate the migration to redefine land ownership. So for me, these are all responsibilities we need to undertake. And unfortunately, what is going on between Twitch and Ngokodinka, as much as the land is concerned, as much as I've said, it's really bigger, it's everything. Some political leaders look at ethnicity as a strong ticket for political legitimacy, and they're the one fueling that. And as people have said, social media, everything, and all this and all that. But one thing that I want to ask also my brother, and I want to bring to your attention, is that with people in social media that sometimes raise some facts that are completely contrary to the reality on the ground. I start asking, can somebody really use information on social media without checking and cross-checking the facts on the reality on the ground? So for me, I think that's for me is really something that we need to really question ourselves who are engaged in social media if we want to sort out our national issues. People of uniform from both Twitch, Mayardit, and Ngok are engaged in fueling violence. Where does those youth get the bullets? Does Twitch, Mayardit, and ABA have a factory of bullets that they manufacture for themselves? If it wasn't being facilitated. So for me, that's the call. And I respect that really president is doing his level best. But I feel he need to move further step by taking responsibility of sanctioning some of the resolutions to this crisis. Because allowing it to be playing around, it will never help us. And these power brokers who want to use violence in the office of the president for removal of leaders, some of them need to be dealt with, honestly. Of course, I'm a human rights activist. I'm not calling for assassinations or eliminations. I'm calling for them to be sanctioned, not to be given any responsibility. In the governance forum, I had voices around this issue of ABA and Twitch as if they're not South Sudanese. As if these are completely another different isolated entities. No way. No way. We'll never keep quiet. We'll never keep silent. We will name you. We will shame you. We will point at you and we'll tell you that you are wrong. If you're right, we'll tell you are right. This is a national issue. It's not a question of Twitch, Mayardit, and Ngokodinka. Thank you. Let me get those other further questions.
Okay, so we come like we reach out our time. So do you want me to, we have another topic that we discussed regarding about the non-signature by all out group. That's one of the things that I want to move to for the next 15 to 20 minutes, and then we'll wrap it up. So our next, let me shift the gear. So Edmund, last week we see the president sent the letter to Kenyan President Mr. Ruto to tell him that to shift the peace negotiation from Rome to Kenya. But we hear from the whole opposition. Those we hear from General Malong camp. Malong agreed that the peace should be shifted to Kenya, and we hear it from General Thomas Shirelo. Thomas Shirelo seemed like he rejecting it, and his reason why he rejecting it is because of its the safety reason. And also, too, we hear it from General Bagan. We hosted a couple of days ago here in Leicester Media, and he said that he didn't. He said that they will have a meeting today. So his position is undecided yet whether he agree the peace negotiation will be shifting to Kenya or not. So that's the one. So what is your intake here? So what do you think about this division among the fallout group? Thank you.
Thank you very much. First, after our first show with you on this particular issue, I've taken a step to do my own research and try to get information. And even I move as further as accessing certain positions to inform me, to get information to know about what is going on within the government and in the region, even within Kenya. I have some few contacts in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and some few contacts around the president. And also I try to look at St. Gideon community. One, there are gaps here that we need to put it right. And I wish this gap would have properly been responded to by the speech of the president yesterday. Unfortunately, the speech of the president failed to provide information. And I think I don't blame president. I blame the drafters. The drafters knew that something politically is very, the speech of the president of the year, it have certain factors that you can't avoid to respond to. One, elections, which I think elections is been I've spoke about elections, but not really detailed about it, urging people to come for elections. That one, you can't really avoid it. Elections. And these elections goes together with the preconditions for the elections, which is already the Constitution Review Commission, which I'm a member, is being reconstituted. What is next? And then the delay in the swearing in of the leadership and the members of the National Election Commission. And then the position of the political parties to register political parties as the timeline of the elections required, which is June. The Election Commission have to declare and they're not being sworn in. And adequate financing. These are issues related to elections that you can't avoid, number one. Number two, security of the elections. So this, you can't avoid speaking into really what's the next phase after the redeployment. And what does this redeployment mean? And when the phase two will come. The speed of this, you can't avoid that. That's the second item. The third item is the question of the Rome. If you're going to go for elections, even if you have security, the non-signatories, what is their destiny with regard to the elections? Is the election going to be inclusive? And if it's inclusive, what is the pathway now with the non-signatory, the revitalized peace agreement? And that takes into account into question of civic political space. Is it open for everybody who feels want to contest the elections to come to the country and safety is granted? So that's a third thing the Spirit President can't miss. The other thing is the question of the communal violence. Of course, we have not spoken so much deeply into that. And the fourth thing is the question of the economy. And I saw him speaking to the speech I've spoken about the salaries issues. And the salary issues is becoming another tense. Somewhere new salary structure is applied, somewhere is not. In some states, the MPs dismissed because the new salary structure is not in line with what has been approved. So I wish to get details that could of the letter written to Ruto, supposed to come out of the speech of the president, in regards to what triggered that process, what does this process mean? Are we building from where we left at Rome? What consensus was been reached before the letters written with the Gideon community, international community, with the region? And is Ruto coming on what status? Is the Kenyan government leader alone, or is it under IGAD, or what is it? Those details that we've been speaking about. And our aim of coming out public is supposed to inform the drafters to respond to that. They did respond to that. That's no problem. But these are the facts that I've realized. One, St. Gideon community is in dilemma. They don't have accurate information of what is it. And I know there's a communication constantly between the secretary of St. Gideon community, Paulo, and the office of the president. And I remember Paulo recently was here. And I remember also Vatican have an ambassador who is assigned to South Sudan. So the ambassador could have, otherwise, on behalf of the Vatican, could have received information to communicate to St. Gideon. That's one thing. Secondly, the letter to His Excellency President William Ruto in Kenya is undergoing a study. Like what I told last time, that they made a response immediately. They have to take time. A study on what? A study on first, should they take up the responsibility? And in terms of international diplomacy, what does that mean in relation to Rome peace process, which was international backed up? And remember, the faith-based community in the world is a very powerful entity. So they're trying to see how they handle that. So this will take time. And what mechanism will they design as an instrument for the mediation? And to what level is that mechanism trusted by all parties, or all parties? Because you know the principle of mediation that both parties in conflict have to accept. So that is still an effort Kenya is building on it, that they have to reach into that. But I'm quite also in Kenya, that as I repeat myself, I know there's a people who are very annoyed about the way how we didn't stood up about their role on Sudan mediation, and until it comes to expiration in the way how we conduct ourselves. Within the government, I check with the political parties whether if there's any deliberations, discussion among themselves. It seems not. It is president with the people around him. He wrote the letter. Other political parties, to what level of consultation? There's no information around it. So what does that mean? This means that this letter stands on the position that there's a gaps. Of course, as I mentioned in the beginning, that any call for peace is something that we need it all. And we appreciate President for raising that up, that, you know, he need to find a peaceful way of resolving difference between him and the whole Arab groups. And you remember in the speech, he made it very clear, let the whole Arab groups put down guns and they come to the table of negotiation and they give chance for peace, which is a good call of head of state, a symbol, a title of president. So that's one thing that also he has mentioned in his speech. So these gaps for me is going to take us time to seek answers before even commissioning the process. That's one thing, that in terms of methodology and approach to the Nairobi. That's one side, you put it aside. The second side is also the same challenges that the incumbent have in approach and methodology is going to face the non-signatories. Why going to face the non-signatories? I want to tell you, my experience of sitting with our South Sudanese politicians in the process of the Addis Ababa peace process that we move around. Once two politicians disagree, they will never repair the damage. How much they come together, they smile, that damage will remain as a wound among them, and they will show it someday, somewhere. So the splits among the groups of non-signatories in terms of individual political characters is also going to take them time to reach consensus, by the way. It's going to take them time. Remember the history of the splits. It's too much. First, it started coming right from SOA. SOA in peace, SOA not in peace. Later on from SOA, go and become SOMA. SOMA split up. Some under this, some under this. And then one SOMA came to Nairobi. In Nairobi, again, things didn't work. New groups came in and the group couldn't reach consensus. So also the non-signatories, in terms of political leaders' attitudes towards gaining political status to go to the mediation table is going to be competitive. It requires consensus. And you can see it very clear. Malong is in Nairobi. Well and good. For me, I have no problem. I'm ready to go for it. Of course, other groups have legitimate concerns about their safety and security, with the reputation of activists being kidnapped. They put that look here before we could go for the subject with assurance. So that is another block. And also this block requires Kenya to take time to have acceptance on that. And I follow your interview with the Pagan. And you see that the analogy and the focus towards national dialogue or the national roundtable, and then the national consensus. It's a process that sounds good. It's a process that is bringing everybody on the table. It's a process that is giving national ownership. It's a process that buy in citizens' acceptance on the political pathway. As a theory, ideal, that's a process. But also it's a process that is challenging the incumbent. Will they retain their status quo or will they lose it? And if they're losing it, what does it mean? And I think for me, this approach requires certain diplomacy engagement, require certain communication, because also this approach is going to fix Kenya. Even if Kenya accepted to take the lead, Kenya is going to question themselves. Where do we take our energy? Our energy, do we begin where Rome ends? Or our energy, we need to start fresh? If we start fresh, do we have the control of the process that will never fail? So all this also going to take Kenya in deploying its experts in making decisions to approach there. So the split of opinion within the non-signatories give the government the opportunity by saying, have you seen? Even they are confused. While actually the government is also inside is confused with its setups. So it's going to be confusion over confusion that will have a sustained confusion. Okay. So one side they are confused, and that confusion will never leave Kenya not to be confused. Kenya is going to get confused too. Because Kenya is going to fall into this nest, this basket of confusion. So what is my take? My take one, for the non-signatories, if I'm asked to advise, I feel the answer of no to the process is not the best answer. The answer to the process that give us time to engage in diplomacy. Let's listen to Kenya. Let Kenya assure us. Let's listen to Kenya. Let's see where Kenya is going to begin. And let's tell Kenya we're not starting from anywhere. We're starting from Rome. Of course, this is an opinion which either of the party can take. Whether incumbent government say we begin from Rome, and then the non-signatories say no, we need to begin fresh. They need to go for diplomacy. So I think closing door for dialogue in any political processes, if you start shutting dialogue, you're actually isolating yourself. And your isolations may continue for long and may keep you to remain irrelevant. And history have shown us in Darfur. You had the voice banning Darfur. When they're so rigid, they start using political rigidity to the level that even they start building walls for self-isolation that they become irrelevant. So for me, it's an opportunity. The expression of the interest is an opportunity that dialogue should continue. But also I like the idea of the Pagan. It's not one-sided or one particular entity or clique chance to speak out. It becomes a chance of everybody to speak out. I decided to move to the religious leaders in these few days. I tried to reach to the bishops, the cardinal, asking them what's your opinion on this idea of the president putting it and how do you see it? Even the religious leaders themselves are confused. They don't have a tech. So for me, I feel if really, this is my appeal, if the incumbent really have the will, if the non-signatories have the will, regardless of leveling people, regardless of suspiciousness, I feel religious leaders, civil society, women, we need to raise up a dialogue over this issue. We need to reach out to each group to narrow the gap and to see where we begin. Because also St. Gideon have international backup. By the way, Kenya doesn't want to put its nose or its fingers where its international relations will be affected. So part of Kenyan studies also to see what does this mean into our global set of an agenda in various mechanisms of international politics, if we were to put our fingers into this. And I feel we could have got better clarity during the speech of the president. What's the approach? How does he want to tackle this? How we want to reach it? Where is St. Gideon here? Where is Rome here? Where is the efforts of the Pope visit, which have sort of like buy-in, global acceptance? All these need to be prepared rather than calling them put arms down and come here. So for me, part of the challenges now, my take is that each party among the two parties that are going to mediate in these new coming processes have internal confusions that they need to settle out. So if they sort out that then will make consensus. And I think as civil society, we may need to take responsibility of going in between the parties. The only unfortunate thing with South Sudanese, and really which beats sometimes my mind, you want to approach somebody, instead of the person opening a dialogue with you, you are automatically leveled. Like I give an example, I've been interacting with a few people on media. Some people start leveling me. I'm a general. Some are saying government paid me. Some are saying I'm working with national security. I'm ally of national security. Some start naming you now not a good Equatorian. Is even born to be an Equatorian or born to be a particular entity. Some are saying, look here, you are anti-Denka, you are anti-Nuer. And I started looking at them and saying, my friends, why are you bringing these levels? Why don't you take a sober mind that let's dialogue, let's talk. Dialogue is the best way to make sense. But with this tendency we have created in South Sudan that dialogue is closed by leveling, by naming and shaming the person to go. And for me, honestly, if we want to rescue this country as elites at our various capacity, being political elites in non-signatory groups or being in the government or being within the civil society or the religious leaders, one thing we need to be honest is that let's not be suspicious, and let suspiciousness not limit us in dialogue. Yes, you can be suspicious because of information around you that is being gathered or connections that the literature you have, your own research, but open up a room for dialogue. For me, in my culture, even my own opponent, I want to talk to the opponent so that maybe the way how I take my reservations is lack of my knowledge. The opponent may provide me something. And you know, there's this political culture that if somebody speaks a statement, take what works with you and leave what doesn't work with you, or take what is good for you and leave what is bad for you. And you cannot know something good or something bad if you don't enter into a dialogue. So for me, it's really to enter dialogue. And I like this idea that Pagan said for them, they're going to consult before they could respond. And I feel even my brothers in NAS, when they wrote that letter of rejecting Nairobi, I wish also they should write to Kenya actually, directly. Because also, you know, putting a public statement without diplomacy engagement is just the same like this letter that we've been looking into the details and we're unable to get it. We start looking at the media. So I wish that either of the party to the peace process, if they have concerns, I think those concerns, they need to reach to the centers of them. And I know they might have the capacity. They have the capacity to reach out to Kenya. They have the capacity to reach out to people close to the president and ask. And the silence of Kenya, since they received the letter until today, in terms of international diplomacy, you know, when head of state communicated officially, publicly, informing the public that we have communicated to that head of state, and that head of state take time to listen, it is a $1 million silence. They are really studying it and taking position. Because by the practice of diplomacy, Kenya could have confirmed, yes, we have received the letter, and this is our position, and this is our feedback. But they are silent, they couldn't get it. So for me, let's watch out the game. Let's see the scene. But this scene, I hope, will not complicate and will not antagonize the spirit that we need for dialogue to be embraced as an instrument of mitigating our political grievances. Because I'm not really fan of, or I'm not really convinced that this process will go further with the gaps that we have seen in information, whether about the letter, about the approach, communication between different entities, Kenya reaching out, because Kenya can't reach out to non-signatories until they take their position. And Kenya can't confirm to the government until they take their position. And they're taking long to take their position, you know, and they have their own internal issues. So for me, and they have issues of international reputation, you take over this agenda. And you know, anything to do with the Christian community globally, it's very sensitive, huh? Really very sensitive. It have very quick damages if you don't take it well. So Kenya also is taking responsibility to see how to manage the expectation of the faith-based community. Kiss of the feet, visit to the ground as a joint visit. That one, they don't want to mess with that reputation. Don't take time to study how to go about with it. So for me, that is it. So for me, the parties need to communicate, but it's a high time for us, civil society and religious leaders, to approach these political elites. Their own brothers, their own our sisters. We need to approach them. We need to communicate with them, but also they need to have that heart of opening up their hearts to listen, to talk to us, not to be rigid. So for me, these are really calls that I like to make, that this particular process is still in a total dilemma, and we need answers for some of the gaps that I've identified in each of the sort of like boxes that I've set, whether boxes within the government, within Kenya, within the whole out groups. But the whole out group split is not going to be an easy unit among them. It's not going to be easy, because there's something I don't know whether it is a virus or what is it, that the breakdown of the SPLM It has built a new culture of breakdown everywhere. Within the uniform, within the different groups, there's a total breakdown. Even within here, let me tell you, the parties were inside here in the agreement. People like how to interact with them. You know, sometimes take us 2 hours to negotiate one party to send signature. 2 people have to battle for signature for 2 hours. Hold us hostage. You have to continue bargaining, and you go for another fresh negotiation. So you start using now a human approach, like Ita Mazol Rajil Kabir, you're a politician, you reason it well, and as if he doesn't know that he's that Rajil Kabir, Siyasi Kabir, is well educated. So unfortunately, our political elites are calculating for themselves dividends. How much we say they are working for the best interest of nurturing democracy in this country, I will not score that take over 60% of the opinion. No. Most of them, how much they're doing their best. Everybody's calculating how to gain. But of course, in politics, the sweet agenda is to call for public position that, as we respond to public interests. But at last minute, it's not public interest. And history have shown us their political track record. Alhamdulillah, there's none of them who does not have a track record. All of them have a track record. And we know them all. When they hold the power, what does it mean to them in terms of really running a state and running a government? When they're out of power, we know their political attitude. So it's a high time for us all, including our civil society. We need to change our political attitudes, and our standpoint has to be the country is above our interests. And we should not all be leaders at the same time, by the way. There's some leaders don't necessarily have to be in government. So you can be a leader outside there. You can rule. Like these days, I was telling people, I'm influencing parliamentarians through social media. MP sometimes at deliberation in parliament, some of them lack information. They start on WhatsApp. Or Edmund, we're debating on this particular bill and we lack these statistics. So I will send to them the statistics, but you raise a motion from my reliable sources. I have this credible information. Who is reliable sources? Those of us who are outside. So somehow we are contributing to the behaviors of the parliament, also how the parliament behave. So with the technology of today, public governance is no longer a question of political parties doing it in isolation. They have to be inclusive and they have to open up. That's my call, honestly. If there's a question, I'm ready. And if there's an argument, I'm ready to pick it up from you.
Okay, thank you, Yakani. That is a well input. Let me, I think we are come to the end, so let me give this chance to Manon to weigh in, and then we call it the day. Manoni, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Sir Madit. And also thank also for our guest admins. Regarding the request from the President Kiir to Kenya to mediate between the whole House group and the government, and if you look the last sitting in Rome, which is the former Minister Marial Benjamin was representing the government. The both sides, as you see, the government is holding with the declaration of principle, and we have seen the whole out group came out with a new agenda, which is the round table consensus. And they stick with it; they make it as an agenda. So you can see two parties here. There's a party that actually walk away from principle of declaration and came up with a new agenda, and then also the government stick with principle of declaration. And even with the exception of round table, government is proposing that it have to be done in South Sudan. That means we have to negotiate the declaration of principle and let us agree on. And then if there is any proposal of round table consensus building, a national consensus, it have to be done in Cuba, because if we say that it have to include, have to be comprehensive with whole South Sudan. It's similar to the national dialogue, which is the issue that we are going to discuss on. It could be similar to national dialogue, because the national dialogue, you can make arguments that national dialogue is not more inclusive because there are other opposition that were not actually part of the national dialogue. And the national dialogue is still relevant even to in a current constitution making process. I think national dialogue recommendations, resolution, will not be left out. The constitution, the current constitution commission have to look into it, because those are the people of South Sudan said, and they came out with a resolution and they make some recommendations. So the issue here is going to be tough, because as long as each party stick with their agenda, and there is no common ground here. The role of the Kenya here will have to play the role between both sides until they come to agree on agenda, and which is go back into declaration of principles, which the government is still holding it, to stick with it. You know, if you look even to the CPA during the negotiation of our own talk with Khartoum, there are a lot of places that we went for negotiation. We went to, there were Mubadara Musriya Libya, there were Abuja 1, Abuja 2, there was discussion in Addis Ababa, there were even Muqtamar al-Qadaya al-Masiriya, which is in Asmara declaration in 2004, in 90s, I mean, and 94. And then there's other setting in TV. And then we came finally to have a Massachusetts agreement, which is came out with declaration of principle, with that more of the negotiation of the CPA to move forward. So I do agree with you that the whole out group have to be an open mind. You know, they don't have to rush into rejection of requests of the government from mediation from Kenya. They have to come to the table. You know, they have to come with what they have. The government will come with what they have in there. And here, the rule of mediation here is how they can pursue the both sides and agree on agenda itself. Even the round table itself is agenda. Whether it is relevant to be discussed outside the country, if it's comprehensive, or whether they have to agree to sign the agreement on the principle of declaration, negotiation, which is relevant to security sectors and economic reform, corruptions, and system of government and all these things, and then concluded with a round table, which is actually have to be done in a country where all the political parties and civil society, also Sudanese, have to come in. You know, we have to be in peaceful environment where we have no hostile to one another. There's no more political dispute outside the country. You know, now we are sitting down in our house with the South Sudanese and formulating, discussing, confirming the issue of this constitution finally, and how we need to move the country forward. And I think it's need environment. National round table is need a peaceful environment to be exist in South Sudan before we talk, because we have to be absolutely out of hostile among ourselves with South Sudanese. And then we talk, not talking as enemy, but talking as a family in the house, similar to national dialogues. That's where we can be able to, and it could be done even after election, you know, where we have a democratic elected government. But as long as people agree that this is the part of the South Sudanese agree that they want round table where the whole of all South have to come together, environment that have no hostile, have no enemy to one another. I think we can still discuss it as a family. But at the moment that we still have a political issue between the parties, because each one now is claiming they're representing South Sudan. And you can see even the national consensus, the whole out group, they were a 6 group. Now it's become 21 group. And how are you going to negotiate with the 21 group? Is realistic that 21 group will have a common ground or common agenda that actually will present it to the government and agree with one agreement that will be suitable? I think it's going to be tough. And what we can see here, maybe there is possibility that even within the whole out group, you know, some of them may agree, continue with the government and sign the contract with the government. Will never reject any group that need to sign with them. So they will not reject it, because. But it is good that if all of them come to agree and have the one settlement for all, instead of having a few groups sign the agreement and a few groups left out, we still have the concept of rebellion or opposition continue to face us with that. We want the comprehensive peace that actually can bring all these political climate in the country and restore the peace, and so the people of South Sudan can have peace in the country and move the country forward, where all of us have to see ourselves collectively. We are progressing and developing our country to move forward. But as you said it, you will need diplomatic effort, you know, we need diplomatic effort. And also, what we don't want to see also, you know, as you said, the Vatican have a role, the Vatican, which is very important even in our war of 21 years. The Catholic Church always has been a part of South Sudan historically, and supporting the people of South Sudan. But at the same time, when the so-called international community become the elements, become the driver of ideas behind the scene, I don't think this is serving the interest of people of South Sudan. Let us be honest, because there are a lot of comments from our group, the clubhouse discussion here, saying that American will not accept the mediation of Kenya. Who are the Americans? If ordinary South Sudanese who actually want peace in this country, what is the business of America in connection with opposition? With our whole out group saying that American, it seems like this is agenda of America, of so-called roundtable, or is a national agenda? If it's a national agenda, then it has to be a free will of South Sudanese, whether you are opposed or pro-government or pro-opposition, to come to agree that this is our country and we need a solution. The solution has to be all of us. It doesn't have to be coming from somewhere or influence from outside the country or whatsoever. Because the interest in the end of the day is interest for South Sudanese. So let us hope for the best and let us see how Kenyan government or President of Kenya going to play the role that they're going to play in order to bring the gap and bring the parties together that agree on the agenda that they have to proceed for in order for South Sudan to have a peace. But what we do know is after a split, it's not the disease, as you put it, Edmund, that I don't know whether the cancer of the splitting is coming from the culture of the SPLM. It has nothing to do with SPLM. It's to do with the greedy. It's to do with the selfishness of so-called South Sudanese politicians and leaders. They always, after their self, we have to agree on that, because that's why we have seen how many political parties that have been created in the country and how many political opposition groups create political parties outside the country. If you add 100 organizations politically that are actually claiming that it's political, let's go back that we don't want to work together. We go back that we have no commons, that actual objective or goal that we are working toward retreat. And this is one of the problems. Even with the historically go back to the CPA, CPA could have not been progressed without SPLM unified SPLM. Dr. Garang and Riek Machar in the declaration of 2002 came together and visit the United States and visit Europe with the message of peace, message of the clear agenda, how they're going to address the issue of negotiation, the issue of self-determination, how it's going to be looked, and the people who are friends were ready to support us because they seen us to put our house in order. So even with Soma, our group, or call our group, until now, they are groups. They are not even one command or one goal, one objective. Each one has its own agenda, its own table, and its own. So those are the challenges actually going to face the negotiation and going to face the current proposal. Finally, I want to conclude with a question to Ustaz Edmund. Now we have seen there's a new governor going to Arab state, and you may know the leaders because you are on the ground. It's stress with the governor Paul Mormor. We see him as a man that's going to handle the situation of the crisis in the region or in the state, because our problem always is leadership. And when people talk about leadership, they just jump to the top leadership as the one. That all of us are leaders. And if we cannot play the role of leadership in the level that we represent, whether you are commissioner or Bayama demonstrator or governor whatsoever, if you are not able to have a strategy as a leader of resolving the problem and try to blame it to the other, that's where the problem is. We have in the level that we are leaders and we have to do the right thing. We are capable of resolving things because leaders are there to resolve the problem. Leaders are there to solve problems. We are problem solvers. We are not problem solvers. We are leaders. So I just want you to put your opinion on that, whether the new governor really is the test or not. Thank you.
Okay. So should I go ahead?
Yeah. Yes. Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, I respect his opinion fully, there are some areas of his opinion that I like to really bring in my perspective on what he raised. First, in any peace process, you can't push one party to come to the table without building consensus. So I don't think that the non-signatories rejection comes out of blue. It's simply because they need consensus somewhere. And that's why I was giving advice that their consensus is not rejected without having a say. And that's why I'm saying the answer of no is not the right approach. It's for them to continue communicating. And even I wish that we could have seen a complete proposal also. If you say, I'm not going for this, and you justify, and like the statement of the NAS, they put it forward, and like the way when you interview Pagan give options. Okay, we're going to say this, and we'll bring forward our position, or Malong have come very forward. For us, we're going for it, regardless of anything. So those are the culture that we need, that bring out your opinion. That's one thing that I think we should make sure that any peace process require acceptance, so that you have the spirit to go and compromise. That's one thing that I like to agree. And I like to bring to the attention of our brother in terms of peace processes. Even at the committee level, I was involved in committee level. Sometimes when committees don't give me acceptance, I can't impose myself. And I can't push for the process to continue until we do. So I think sharp diplomacy here is needed. And I think also from the side of the government, need to engage other constituencies that are there, even St. Gideon to communicate, Kenyans to communicate. So that's something to bring to his opinion, number one. Number two, my brother, we are not an island of ourselves. And in the world of today, you can't do anything in isolation of someone's interest. You know, when he was explaining the CPA, he used the word friends of South Sudan. They are friends of Kenya. That Kenya doesn't want to antagonize them. So I didn't mention America. There are many of them. So whatever Kenya is going to take with regard, and also want to bring to his attention that, remember, the keys of the Pope on the feet of our leaders and their visit to the country is not out of free. It's not a free lunch. Some people have to take position on that. That's why we say, let's not, let's not mess up the mud. Let's try to see also, and Kenya doesn't want to mess up the mud. Kenya need to find a way of how to position itself. Yes, I know it is our process. It is our own issue. It needs our own ownership. That's always what I stand for, is that national ownership is more stronger than anything that has been preconceived somewhere and imposed. And normally, something is preconceived somewhere, ownership doesn't come automatic. People reject it, and it doesn't last long, and it collapses. But Kenya doesn't have that position, that the way you're looking at it. Kenya also is looking at its own reputation, because it's a global community. It's a global community, unrepresentable global community. You can't do anything in isolation of anything. So you need to look into that. So I don't think that, yes, someone like me, I reach out to some few contacts with the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Kenya, and I reach some few contacts close to the president. They told me that. They said, look here, we want to position ourselves also. We don't just accept it like that. We need to position ourselves. We need to reach out. We need to check constituencies that are around the global community. That's very important. Look at when they want to check Sudan. When the Sudanese rejected, what happened? So for me, we shouldn't also keep that we are an island of our own, that we feel external actors cannot. The same way, even if we want to do something, we need to have some connection. So that spirit of global politics and diplomacy, we can't ignore it completely. It plays a big role and cannot be subtracted. There's nothing that can go. All over the world, there's nothing that's been done without that. You can't, unless if you're an island of your own. We're not an island of our own. So we need to engage in that diplomacy, and we need to push that diplomacy further. Actually, I'm somebody who say, if I'm asked to give a recommendation to the government, I wish the Minister of Foreign Affairs should call for diplomatic briefing on that initiative. Where does it come from? Where? So that you answer some queries that may come from them if they want to inform their capitals, so their capitals understand. So I feel, for me, that is really, really a point that we should not completely push it out. Mine is that we must allow certain international engagements that we need to buy in, whether from Kenyan side or from our side or from the opposition. That's something I like to say. I do agree with him on that. So, but the one thing that I like from what he said is that the spirit of dialogue for peace is a national commitment. It's not an external agenda to be imposed on us. So we need to build that culture of, we nurture ourselves, that we let's talk for peace. And I like always talking for peace, not talking for disagreement, talking, let us make peace prevail. So that spirit, I like what he raised, that it's very important. My other concern, maybe I used the word disease in the SPLM is wrong, but as he said, one thing that I accept with him, it's a political culture among our leaders. You know, recently I did a tree diagram in my office. And my tree diagram, I look at certain politicians. How many parties have they crossed over? How many parties have they established? How many contradictory political statements they have made? To be honest, almost 80% of the politicians I know, all of them fit into that category. None of them is clean from there. They have contradictory statements. They have crossed from one party to another. They have changed position from one to another. They have made statements that contradict each other. So it's a political culture that is already within the political attitudes of our leaders, which may be the word of party is generalizing. Maybe that's what they were saying, like saying what I don't know what's wrong with the spirit of SPLM come up. Maybe that word is generalizing, which I think if it's misplaced, then I take responsibility for that to withdraw. But I think is an attitude in our political leaders. Because one time I was in, I think I'll repeat myself. Maybe I've spoken about this before. When we're in Khartoum, I can see a trend of politicians who came friends together to the table. In the process, the negotiation is going on well. They start dividing, they start distancing themselves, they start creating positions among. You don't see them anymore as friends that have come to the mediation together. When they come to the mediation together, they take tea together, they eat lunch together, they sit outside the compound together in the hotel. If you feel they're taking some beers, tea, they take together. But when we're almost towards agreement, you start seeing they are not anymore together. Even their level of bondage start showing gap because my shoulder be grip, kursi be grip kalas, asel be grip. You know, nyanya is too close. So the more nyanya is coming too close, the more people split up in things that are going to do. Or if you see it's very far from you, you want to break off and you want to become as a bargainer, so somebody take it into account if he's having an opportunity. That's a political attitude in our political elites that I accepted that. And this is what has happened with the summer. The split is the same. Some people believe I'm senior than you. You can't tell me anything. Whatever I said is correct. And whatever I'm saying is not giving me a return, I'm not with you. So this will continue. Will continue whether within the incumbent or with those groups, as I said, is a question of mindset of our political leaders. So that's what I like to share with him in that. And I wish really there's a much work need to be done around this proposal. And the much work to be done around this proposal is availing accurate information on the triggers, on the approaches, on building consensus. So I think a lot of civic engagement is required to sensitize people and to get it. And I think it's both sides, whether the government or the whole art groups, there's a need for us to talk about it. What is it? What does it mean? What does it mean to that? And then also remember, we should not just left roam like that. You can't have a friend who is standing with you and just say, my friend, go away. No, you need to find a way of how to divorce your friend in a genuine way that become maybe tomorrow, next tomorrow, in future, you may need to meet them somewhere. It's just like our struggle of the CPA. We have learned a lot of lessons from there. Learned a lot of lessons from that particular process that inform us on any peace process. His last question about the current governor of Warab, whether he will manage the situation or not. The current governor of Warab will manage the situation on the following ground. One, if he's given absolute responsibility to exercise his powers without interference of those who negotiated him to be appointed as a governor. You know, Abraham, I discovered something recently. Yeah? I come to realize we have leaders who are in silence. These leaders negotiated to come to power. The moment you don't meet their pockets, they will complicate for you everything. And even some of them are bold enough that will tell you that it's asthma. So this concept of Munujabak Fikursida, if we draw out from the function of the new governor appointed of Warab, he will perform this one. Two, the governor also will perform if he does not assume that he knows. Because one thing wrong with our governors, most of them assume that they know. Well, actually, they don't know. They start making decisions of their own because I know. Let me tell you, one thing that made Ring to succeed in Lakes are those consultations. You remember when he was appointed as a governor, he did a series of consultations. And I'm one of the person who pushed a lot that, Don't make a mistake. Your previous successors who just go and say they know. You first listen. Let the youth tell you what they want. Listen to the women. Listen to the intellectuals. Let that set the agenda. And then at least somehow he was able to cut down legs from the media every day. 10 dead, at least 5 dead. We don't have any speak to that. Though it have consequences. It has consequences whether it comes to human rights or come to what, because it's a demand, it's a call. And there's nothing that you can do in this world that become clean to everybody. Somebody somewhere have to oppose, even if it's clean to majority. One person will come and oppose it. So the current governor need to have that. The third thing, the current governor need not to be a subordinate of the president. One weak thing with the governors of Warab is that always they have been made as subordinates of the president. No, he should operate as a governor. And should not be made also as a subordinate of those allies of the president who come from Warab. Something also is weak in the governance of Warab is that some group of people keep themselves around the president and they want to make the government to be subordinate to them. So that's what he will deliver. That's why he can deliver that. He can deliver that capacity. But also we need the political elites of Warab who are pro-conflict to withdraw back and leave the governor to drive the process in the way that he wants. So for me, those are the answers that I can provide for you that the governor can succeed in that. And not only the governor of Warab, it's governor everywhere. The other thing he need to do is he need to work with a team. There's this tendency from our governors, Abraham, that some of our governors believe that they want to do the work alone. They undermine commissioners, they undermine ministers. He need to work with a team. Sometimes actual much of his work is done by those people that we call them commissioners, you call them executive directors, you call them paramount chief. Give them the powers, give them the opportunity, empower them. Governors that have failed in their states are those governors that never empower state structures and they undermine them. They want to run the show on their own. So for me, he will fail if you take that trend. If you take the trend of empowering the structures and remain as a referee to check them how they're delivering it, that will be really a very good position. Thirdly, he should not administer Warab with the cliques. Because he's coming to power, he comes through a clique system. There's no governor in South Sudan can tell me I came clean by the choice of the president. No. Mafi governors there. So soon you'll hear you see people say, my clique mess up now. So he should not work with the cliques, he should work with everybody and he should listen to everybody. There's no son of Warab who is wrong and who is good. The only thing is that listen to them and get from them the information and then use it the best way that won't exercise your power. So for me, this is my answer to my brother, that the governor will succeed if he takes that. And he should have people, a person who have so many constituents of consultations, not only the state. Reach out to religious leaders, reach out to civil society, reach out to international organizations, build a culture. And one of the failure of our governors, they are very poor in filing system. Their memory is completely zero. They don't have a memory to build from. Most of our governors. When there's this tendency, my friend Abraham, one day, if this Lex Media is supposed to manage like a state in South Sudan, the day your team leave, you leave with all the documents, you leave with all the information, not literature left behind. Whoever comes to replace you there will find Lex Media without anything on the table of reference. So I'm quite sure he's going to face the same thing. So he should build from where people have left, so that he build on what they call the history and the knowledge and the gains that were registered. But sometimes you go and undo all those gains and they want to start there from fresh. So for me, those are the like changing secretary generals, changing office managers, changing commissioners, ministers, and then you start acting as an ajar. Any problem, il sakus. Any minister mess up, il degree out. He cannot succeed. Warab require the governor to be given full political independence for him to exercise his powers. And all these sons of Warab in different government institutions who have muscles, they should withdraw back. There's no show their muscles to him. Allow him to administer the state as a person in charge, and you evaluate and you check him on that. If we don't do that, he will never stay long and he will never manage the state. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Edmund. Manon, I will give you 1 minute to put in your last word so we can.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for the media, and also thank to our viewers here, and also thank goes to Sas Edmonds. His contribution here is really valuable. But we hope that the new governor, have to focus also take initiative of addressing the diaspora, because the fight on the social media
exactly
have a big impact, and I think we need to reach out to both community. Because Warab, by the way, Warab and people of Abia, they are one.
My brother, I'm not interrupting you. Can I give you a proposal on this idea of yours?
Yeah, go ahead.
Even diaspora, if governor is not reaching you, reach out to diaspora. So as a diaspora of Warab, reach out among yourselves, organize yourselves, mobilize yourselves. If he doesn't reach out to you, reach out to him. And somebody like me, I'm ready to facilitate. Then we can create a space where, as a diaspora, you can communicate to him. Because sometimes with technology, you don't need to be physical. He just need to really give chance to you. And for me, I have this culture, my brother. If the leader failed to come to you, you go to the leader, because otherwise the leadership is not his. So somebody don't tell him I'm a leader, and then you want to run away with the leader as your personal property. No. Well, it has to be so. Cardinal, most cardinal, cannot come to me to my office. I will go to him. I fail on the office, send down a mouth for the unless he doesn't come and pray. So just also take approach as a diaspora, mobilize yourselves. And actually, I want to call on the diaspora of Twitch and NGOK. Can you start your own dialogue among yourselves? That's my proposal. Thank you.
Yeah, and I see the dialogue between.
I hope the message will go from there, and you also do your part, Edmund, because if the social media war cool down, it will help the governor to do what he's supposed to do in order to restore the peace and bring two community more closer and reconcile and move forward. Family can fight, but the most important is to go back and reconcile and forgive one another and move forward. So I think there are some interaction from Mark here, ABA, and also from Warab this interview. Hopefully they will take the notes, and you also do your part, and we'll do our part also to approach them. You have to reach out to the governor. You have to be a part of the process, because we need to stop the bleeding, because it is the one family that is bleeding. Whatsoever happening now for 2 years is one family that is bleeding. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Manon. Thank you. Yeah. Anyone, go ahead. Put your last statement. So
I think my last statement is that I would like to use this platform. I'm not promising. I want to make sure that we want to create a platform of Twitch and NGOK diaspora for dialogue. And one of my proposal is that I'm going to create a WhatsApp platform, and I will ask if some of them accept that, if they can share their contacts through you, Abraham, through Lex Media or whoever, and you have my contact, share with them. Let us start conversation among ourselves. We can have Zoom meetings, and I'm going to talk to each of them in diaspora to that. But also I want to reach out to the governor, that the governor should listen to the diaspora of Twitch. I know with the NGOK, they are in communication, but I think time has come for us to really put a peace initiative that it's a collective for all of us, because the death of a single son and daughter, whether from Twitch or from NGOK, is a death of a South Sudanese. So it's not a joke. We shouldn't count it like it's just a Twitch and NGOK issue. No, it's a national issue. That's one thing. And I reach out to the governor. And also I'd like to tell my brothers that I'm observing the governor's tour in the region of Barakazal. Next week, I'm going to go to each of them one by one and also give them an opinion. And we want to bring the religious leaders to speak on this. So for me, we need to push from all angles, and that does not require us to have money in our pockets. It just requires to have the spirit of reaching out, and technology is easy for us, expense of finances, so we can reach out. So that's my final call. And for the peace process, my appeal is that let us use dialogue.
Absolutely.
To reduce our political grievances. The country is failing. It's not failing for one person, it's failing for all of us. And we may lose this country not only for one. And the challenge is now we are joining integrations of communities. These members of other communities will never wait for us to put our house in order before they take over whatever we have. So for me, as we go for integration, let's put our house in order. And putting our house in order is not by being rigid. It's really by having the culture of dialogue. If some people have culture of dialogue, they have a fears. Let's listen to their fears, and let's give an opportunity to also consider their fears and put answers to their fears. That's my final conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Edmund Yakani. That's wonderful. And I agree with you that a son and daughter of NGOK, son of daughter of Twitch, they need dialogue. And that's right. Especially the diaspora people, they need. Because the way I see it, right movement at this time, they are divided. And they are used social media platform for the warfare. What is we need to tell them to stop that, let them come together, and let them have dialogues. That is so important. If the peace comes between Ngok and Twitch, they have to start here in diaspora and then go back home. Because diaspora people that are playing a very negative role, what's going on in Twitch and Abia. So I believe in that. And for what I said that, I will leave this song for them, for Twitch and Ngok. This song is for you. So thank you, Yakunabe. Have a wonderful new year, and all of you. So I will leave this song to you, all of you. Thank you.
You're ready for a comeback. It's not just a job, it's transferable college credit. And
hey, Kevin. Good luck.
Okay, why the college we quite die YouTube, Facebook, the Clubhouse. Me the BI, me the Twitch, we got quite talk. We got quite talk. Maybe Nyan Kui at a Twitch. Maybe Nyan Kui at our BI. Nor at our BI. Nor at a Twitch. A more young little Kalango, me the TV cake, but we yup. We got trail taping. Back by them, you people that pew. Don't go to nag yet. Don't go to yet. I am one young look on not a bang we took. Where me the trade in the no BA. Where me that BA in the not we. Nor a bang we took. We got quite took. Me the take I care. With junker. Don't get in corker. Lawyer cam quan dung cho be itir cam quan dung cho politician be better with challenge be right one bukabraj run jud kene 2024 choy ruon the door the cam quan mi the twitch mi da bi baga chat ter ci wo chat ba man tweet brad jot bulongo Nere la blue busy. We met the ngor jot from a BA. We bent tweet, Minerva team. We got yam to. A chiran the botegi. Door a chiran the bend outside the door, but come for our pay our pink work door loy. So kind of message nongi, no me the tweet, me that BA. This is my New Year's resolution to you. So I door about the camp one. Kunale botie, kunale bedor ben kam kon ku lomka e run jot kana ba runa tie run dor between you two community nale botie ku shukran.
In Juba, Malatori, hey, I'm you, in Ping William. In Benti, Walla Quatu, hey, wow, in Ping William. In Malkal, Walla Pinyaram, in Ping William.